Hello, good evening, good day, everybody, and welcome to episode 350 of the Ask Abhijit show. I hope you're all doing great. Um, we're going to discuss, obviously, the war in Iran. We're going to discuss anything else that you like. It's going to be driven by your questions, and there's a lot happening in the war in Iran. So, we're going to discuss that. But before we speak about any of that, let's see who all is there on the live stream tonight or today. Rohan Bidi, good evening. Piyush Sinha from Bhagalpur, Bihar, hello. Good to see you. Ashwini Sharma, Shubh Sandhya ji. Rit Aslathia, okay. God of Thunder, Rano Nahapana. Geopolitical Dubey from Indore, hello. KJ11118, Abhishek Shukla live. The Eternal Witness, good evening, good to have you. Ayush Singh Kha. Okay. Hello, Ayush Singh. Who else? Sharath Menan, Vibhav Kumar Devangan, Pranam Sarji Ayush, Tanmay Deshpande, Alvin Rodriguez, hello, good to have you. Abhishek Shukla live, hello. Amaya Tulpule, guten Abend aus Deutschland. Je vous attends toujours avec grand plaisir. Merci beaucoup, monsieur. Merci. Vikash PJ, namaste. Lovish Tind, good evening, Ji. Vench Acharya, privyet. Privyet. Jimmy Kudo, thank you, sir. Harshay, good evening. Vikash PJ, Anup 030390, Karthik Manju, Vench Acharya. Mehul Rajesh Babu, hello, good evening. CJ, business, okay, Sun Devil, all right. Abhishek Shukla live once again. Mr. Asia, yes, hello, good to have you. Abhi is also here. Lalit Aditya Muktapida is here with us, outstanding. Harshit Goel, Aman Tiwari, Sampriti Goswami, good evening. Putin 444, hello Ji, hello. Harshay once again. McLevin 69, hello, good to have you again, good to see you. Unapologetic Sanatani, hello. Ragveer Singh W1282. Aryan Sharma 2161, hello. Somi is here from Jaipur, hello. Vinch Acharya from Ahmedabad, good to have you. General Subothai, always good to have you, sir. McLevin once again. Om Naik. Aditya Somik is here from Bangladesh, good to have you, sir. Good evening to you. Nutan Roshan is here from okay, Rutan Roshan, good to have you, sir. Oh, Arya. Ashwin Watches is here from the Netherlands. Good to see you. Putin is here from Hyderabad. Raghavir Singh. Jagdish Mali from Vadodara. Meet Joshi 23. BBDU. Okay. Sand is here. Yash Patel. Somi. Who else? Vikash PJ. Meet Joshi from Surat in Gujarat. Hello, good to have you from Surat. Lempawan. Nirvana Shanks is reading the right stuff. I suppose you're reading it or watching it. There's a watching version also, but the reading one is good. It's outstanding. Bora Harish, Alvin Rodriguez, hello. And so many of you. I won't be able to greet you all individually. Omkar Date. Swaroop says about speaking about Hormuz. Rahul Himthani is here from Mumbai. Namaste. Sahil Dasgupta from Kolkata. Hello. Angad Singh Oberoi from Vancouver in Canada. Good morning. Rakesh from Bangladesh. Raghavir Singh is here from Pripyat. Okay. So the point is, Noman says, I never take. Where is Noman? Noman says, I never take your questions. I never take his questions. Well, do ask. I'll take your questions. See, I saw it. All right. I try to take as many questions as I can. Okay. All right. Okay. So, Soldier Boy is saying love from Tehran. Well, good to have you from Tehran, I suppose. Tehran. Okay. So, a lot is happening. The Prime Minister of India is going to address the nation at 8:30 p.m. tonight. That's in about 25 minutes or so. So we're going to have an address by the Prime Minister to the nation. We have no idea what it's about. So I wonder, maybe we'll see what's happening on Twitter, right? In Twitter, you can see in real time essentially what's happening. Okay, there is that. Then there is the war in Iran. Okay, Trump has been claiming. Trump has tweeted that Iran has given him everything he wants, and the Strait of Hormuz is open. And then Iran says that we have had no such conversation. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. Before that, the Prime Minister, the President of Iran The foreign minister of Iran says that it's open, and then Iran's Tasnim news agency says no, it's not open. It's a very bad tweet. Okay, then Trump says I'm going to drop bombs. Then apparently there is firing on Indian ships. So there's a whole lot that's happening. So let's first take a look at what's happening. Okay, what's happened in the past 24 or so hours, and then I will now take questions from you all. Okay, let's first do a recap of what's happened, because a lot has happened in the past 24 hours. As always, there's claims and counterclaims. Trump says he got everything he wanted. He has won. Has he? So yesterday, okay, today is April 18. Yesterday was April 17. So yesterday, the foreign minister of Iran, Mr. Sayed Abbas Araghchi, tweeted this yesterday evening. In line with the ceasefire in Lebanon, the passage for all commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open for the remaining period of the ceasefire on the coordinated route as already announced by Ports and Maritime Organization of the Islamic Republic of Iran. So Mr. Araghchi goes and says that it's open now, in line with the ceasefire in Lebanon. So apparently they seem to have reached some kind of deal. That's what it looked like when this tweet was announced. And then you have this. So this tweet from Mr. Araghchi came out at 6:15 p.m. India time, and this came out about 2.5 hours later. It's from the Tasnim news agency, which is, you could say, official, government voice in Iran. It said and this is translated from Persian, from Farsi. It said, bad and incomplete tweet by Araghchi, an incorrect ambiguity creation regarding the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Our country's foreign minister wrote in a tweet just minutes ago that following the ceasefire in Lebanon, the Strait of Hormuz will be fully open for the passage of commercial ships for the remaining duration of the ceasefire period. And they are saying that this is a bad and incomplete tweet, an incorrect ambiguity creation by Mr. Araghchi. So this is an official, you could say, censure or condemnation by the government of Iran of the statement of its own foreign minister. Well, looks like things are not all fine in Iran, right? Looks like there are problems within the government of Iran. So you have this that happened yesterday. Then what happens? Okay, then we have this tweet that comes out, and this is official. Looks like it's official U.S. government sources that are saying this. The US is considering a $20 billion cash for uranium deal with Iran as part of a new three-page peace plan, as per Axios. Details include the US and Iran are negotiating over a three-page plan to end the war. One element under discussion is that the US would release $20 billion in frozen Iranian funds in return for Iran giving up its stockpile of enriched uranium. Some of Iran's highly enriched uranium would be shipped to a third country, and some would be down-blended in Iran under international monitoring. So if you have 90% enriched uranium, which is weapons grade, some of it will be shipped off to a third country, maybe Russia or whoever else. And some of it will be down-blended, which means it will be mixed with other uranium so that it comes down in terms of purity to less than 60%, or around 60%. And Iran would be allowed to have nuclear research reactors for the production of medical isotopes, but would pledge that all of its nuclear facilities would be above ground. Yeah, so that it's easy to hit. Okay, a second round of US-Iran talks is expected in Pakistan on Sunday. Okay, so this came out yesterday. We don't know if it's true or not. What next? This is a social media post by the President of the United States, and he said that Iran has just announced that the Strait of Iran, not Hormuz, Strait of Iran, is fully open and ready for full passage. Thank you. So he announced to the world that the Strait of Iran is open. Then what happened? Once again, same. This is from the White House. Iran has just announced that the Strait of Iran is fully open and ready for full passage. Thank you, President Donald J. Trump. Okay, this is from the White House's official Twitter account. And once again, there is a longer statement. The Strait of Hormuz is completely open and ready for business and full passage. But the naval blockade will remain in full force and effect as it pertains to Iran only until such time as our transaction with Iran is 100% complete. This process should go very quickly in that most of the points are already negotiated. Thank you for all that stuff. So looks like at this point in time, the negotiations were going on. I mean, at least so that's what Trump was claiming. Okay. Then there's more from Trump. Okay, this is his Truth Social account. Let's begin this. And Trump said the USA will get all nuclear dust created by our great B 2 bombers. No money will exchange hands in any way, shape, or form. This deal is in no way subject to Lebanon either. So he's contradicting what the foreign minister of Iran said. So this deal is in no way subject to Lebanon either. But the US will separately work with Lebanon and deal with the Hezbollah situation in an appropriate manner. Israel will not be bombing Lebanon any longer. They are prohibited in capital letters. Israel is prohibited from doing so by the USA. Enough is enough. And that's a message to Israel, apparently, by President Trump of the United States. So, President Trump of the US says that Israel is prohibited in capital letters from bombing Lebanon. Okay, what else do we have? And then he says, again, this deal is not tied in any way to Lebanon, but we will make Lebanon great again. Okay, fantastic. What next? Then there is this announcement breaking. A source close to Iran's parliament speaker Ghalibaf says that the Hormuz opening will be practically limited with three conditions, adding that this is precisely what Iran has been pursuing since the beginning of the war and is now imposing on America. The conditions: all passage rerouted through Iranian territorial waters via Larak Island, a historic, unprecedented change ensuring Iran's sovereignty over the strait forever. Secondly, only commercial ships allowed, with Iran alone deciding which ships qualify, enemy linked vessels excluded, and tolls still required for security provision. And thirdly, all transit coordinated by the IRGC Navy, with Iran's military fully controlling passage through the strait. So, looks like now there is ambiguity and there are conditions attached to the deal, which so far did not have these conditions. Okay, next. And this is from yesterday, around that time, yesterday evening. Breaking: Chancellor Merz, Prime Minister Starmer of the UK, Monsieur Macron of France, and Madame Meloni of Italy, they issued a joint statement in Paris saying they're sending a naval mission to the Hormuz Strait to protect freedom of navigation. Okay, so there's things happening. The European nations looks like they're getting involved. These are NATO nations, right? Looks like NATO is now, at least these nations are not maybe as part of NATO, but individually coming together, and maybe they're going to send a naval mission. And they announced that they're sending a naval mission to the Strait of Hormuz. So European nations are getting involved navally through their navies. Okay, well, that complicates things, doesn't it? Then you have this. So breaking from yesterday, 9 p.m. ish India time. Despite President Trump prohibiting Israel from striking Lebanon, a fresh Israeli drone strike has just killed at least one person in Beit Yahun, southern Lebanon, the country's civil defense told Al Jazeera. Just an hour earlier, President Trump posted on Truth Social, the USA will separately work with Lebanon and deal with the Hezbollah situation in an appropriate manner. Israel will not be bombing Lebanon any longer. They are prohibited, in capital letters, from doing so by the USA. Enough is enough. And then the Lebanese army has already reported ceasefire violations before the strike, including hours after it went into place when Israel struck an ambulance in the time of Kunine, close to the border on Friday, according to the National News Agency, with reported casualties among the targeted medical workers. The Lebanese recorded a number of violations of the agreement, with several Israeli attacks recorded in addition to intermittent shelling targeting a number of villages. So it looks like Mr. Trump's prohibition, the prohibition he issued on Israel bombing Lebanon, it's not worked. Enough is enough did not work. Okay. I mean, as if this Al Jazeera report, which is being reported by Drop Site, is true. Next, this is something about Pakistan. The World Bank has reclassified Pakistan from South Asia, so-called South Asia, to the Middle East, to the Middle East and North Africa, MENA region, effective from 1st July 2025. Pakistan is an asset that they can play with, that the Americans can play with, and that's why now Pakistan has been reclassified as part of the Middle East and North Africa region. Earlier, it was part of the AfPak region that the Americans had created to tie Pakistan strategically with Afghanistan. Now they want to tie Pakistan strategically with the Middle East and North Africa. So Pakistan is a plaything for them to play around with. Okay, what next? And this is Mr. Shahbaz Sharif. a few minutes after the reclassification of Pakistan as a Middle Eastern nation, Mr. Shahbaz Sharif, the so called Prime Minister of Pakistan, the unelected Prime Minister of Pakistan, the appointed Prime Minister of Pakistan, he says to Mr. Donald Trump, so Trump had put this out, right, on Truth Social. Thank you to Pakistan and its great Prime Minister and Field Marshal, two fantastic people. So Shahbaz Sharif says, Mr. President, on behalf of the people of Pakistan, Field Marshal Syed Asim Munir, and on my behalf, I express my deepest and profoundest appreciation for your kindest and most gracious words. Okay, so Mr. Shahbaz Sharif, he knows what works with Mr. Trump. Flattery works with him, so he's flattering him. Next, this is interesting. Okay, just 20 minutes before Trump's announcement that the Strait of Hormuz was open, massive trades hit the market. Investors sold a combined 7,990 lots of Brent crude futures, a $760 million bet that oil would go down. See, 20 minutes before the announcement by Trump, they placed a $760 million bet that oil would go down. Obviously, it will go down if Trump announces this. These orders were very much larger than anything else at the time. The traders made huge gains. Unusual. It's not the first time we have seen this. Ever since this war began, there has been activity of this kind that's been happening, and it's very closely linked and tied with Trump's social media posts and other announcements. Right? Very interesting games. The president of the US may be playing, perhaps, potentially, hypothetically, allegedly. Yeah. Okay, what else? And yes, this is once again early morning today, India time. Just in, American President Trump says that Iran has agreed to everything, including the removal of enriched uranium. And Iranian state media says Iran has not agreed to remove or transfer its enriched uranium. So once again, things are fragmenting. They are disagreeing on various things, multiple things now. And then Trump tweets this. Okay, early morning today, India time. President Xi is very happy that the Strait of Hormuz is open and/or rapidly opening. Our meeting in China will be a special one and potentially historic. I look forward to being with President Xi. Much will be accomplished. So President Trump has announced to the world on behalf of President Xi Jinping how Mr. Xi Jinping is feeling. He has decided that Mr. Xi Jinping is feeling fantastic, very happy. Okay. So once again, this is something to do with the deal that Trump had negotiated allegedly with Iran. The Strait of Hormuz will be opened, and America gets everything it wants. Then there is this news that came out. The US has authorized transactions involving Russian oil loaded onto tankers before April 17, with the authorization remaining in force until May 16. US-Russian economic and military energy cooperation will continue. So the United States gives permissions to nations, authorizations to nations, whether they can buy oil or not, Russian oil, Iranian oil, and so on. So once again, they've authorized nations like India to purchase Russian oil, which was loaded onto tankers before April 17, and we can do this until May 16. So the US will decide our energy policy, where we can buy oil from and where we can't, and until how long. Okay. And this is the statement, whatever it is. Okay, so I'm not going to read the statement. Then this is a claim by Reuters. I don't know how true or not it is, but it's a claim that's been put out on social media by the Spectator Index. It says Indian oil refiners paid for Iranian oil using Chinese yuan, according to a Reuters report. So I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm just reporting that this is being reported right now. I don't know if it's true or not, but this is the kind of news that's out there in social media. Maybe it's fake news. Maybe it's true. I don't know. But this is what is being reported on social media right now. Spectator Index, it's a big account, 3.2 million followers. And Reuters is, I suppose, even bigger. Okay. What else do we have? And then, as we know, the ceasefire starts unraveling. The Strait of Hormuz is not open, right? So, yes, so today morning, which is night time yesterday, US time, Donald Trump said, unfortunately, we'll have to start dropping bombs again. I think it's going to happen. Yeah, so he's now saying that, you know what, Iran isn't giving me what I want. So I'm going to start dropping bombs on Iran again. And then there is a Hormuz update. Okay, this is just an hour or so ago. Iran has now turned back 20 vessels attempting to cross the Strait of Hormuz today. And the US blockade has turned back a total of 23 vessels. So Iran and the US are competing about blocking. It's a competition for who gets to block or turn away more ships. So it appears that we are now entering a complete shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz. Prior to the US blockade, vessels from Iran and Iran's allies were permitted to sail through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, under the US blockade, the US is prohibiting vessels from accessing Iran's ports and coast. We may be seeing the first ever complete shutdown of Hormuz. Okay, so until now, the Strait of Hormuz has been a semi permeable membrane essentially. Some ships were being allowed to come in and go out by the Iranians. Then Trump comes in, then they announce the ceasefire, and then the ceasefire unravels completely. And now the US and Iran are competing for who gets to block more ships. So it looks like we're going to have the first ever complete shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz. And then this is, yeah, what happened, right? So yesterday at 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time, USA, Iran's Foreign Minister Mr. Araghchi announced that the Strait of Hormuz was completely open for all commercial vessels. Let us see. Completely open for the remaining period of the ceasefire, right? That's what he said. Completely open um, for all commercial vessels. At 9:06 p.m. a.m. Eastern Time, President Trump of the US thanked Iran for reopening the strait. Then at 10:20 a.m. Eastern Time, US time, Trump said Iran and the US were working together to remove all mines from the Strait of Hormuz. Between 10:40 a.m. and 12 p.m. Eastern Time in the US, President Trump of the US said Iran agreed to never close the strait again and to suspend its nuclear program indefinitely. Suddenly, at 6:14 p.m. Eastern Time in the US, Iran's Speaker of the Parliament said Trump made 7 claims in 1 hour, all 7 of which were false. Now, Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz again, and oil tankers are being struck. Being struck. So, what just happened behind the scenes? It's a big question. What happened behind the scenes? What happened? And the foreign minister of Iran did make that statement. Here we have it. It's still on. It's still up there on Twitter. So what's going on? What is going on? Is there some kind of weird politics happening in Iran? Are they going to remove their foreign minister? Is their foreign minister compromised, or is he unpopular? What is the deal? So something is up. But now the Strait of Hormuz is closed again, and oil tankers are being stuck. And Iran's Speaker of Parliament said Trump made 7 claims in 1 hour, all 7 of which were false. Okay, things are getting complicated. Now, breaking. This is from today. This is from less than 2 hours ago. The US says Iran's IRGC has conducted at least 3 attacks on commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz today. The Strait of Hormuz is officially closed again. Okay, so 3 attacks on commercial ships today in the Strait of Hormuz. And now we have this. According to 2 Channel 16 audio recordings captured today, 2 Indian vessels were forced back west out of the Strait of Hormuz into the Persian Gulf by Iran's Sepah IRGC Navy. Firing was involved. Firing. They opened fire. One of the vessels is an Indian flagged VLCC supertanker carrying 2 million barrels of Iraqi oil. I suppose it would be going towards India. Meanwhile, India is still importing Iranian oil with friends like this, with friends like these. Okay. So, looks like firing was involved in the turning back of 2 Indian vessels. They were forced back into the Persian Gulf from the Strait of Hormuz. Right? They were going eastwards. They were forced back westwards. Okay. Some more news about this. During today's attack against an Indian tanker by Iran in the Strait of Hormuz, it seems though the vessel was initially headed outbound out of the Strait of Hormuz, eastwards, but was refused by the IRGC. The vessel is then seen heading inbound towards the Gulf, the Persian Gulf again, but then turns off AIS and makes a run for it eastbound before being fired upon. Okay. Additional reports indicate a second Indian tanker was also fired upon. So looks like if these reports are true, the IRGC has been firing today on Indian vessels or towards Indian vessels. Right? Breaking. This is from 2 hours ago, 2.5 hours ago, roughly. India's foreign ministry likely to summon Iran's ambassador over the shooting at Indian vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. That's from 6:03 p.m. today. And 6:58 p.m., Iran ambassador has been summoned by India's foreign ministry over the Hormuz incident. So looks like the IRGC Navy has fired at least towards Indian vessels. Maybe they were trying to leave the Persian Gulf region through the Strait of Hormuz, go eastwards, towards India, obviously. And they were not allowed to do that. They were made to turn back into the Persian Gulf. And maybe they did not comply perhaps with orders. That's why firing was done. I don't know if they've been hit or not, but at least firing happened towards the vessels. So that is the situation. That's all I know until now. Okay, that's the latest I know. And today, in about 10 minutes, 5 minutes or so, there's going to be an address to the nation by India's Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. And we have no idea what it's going to be about, but we'll see. Maybe you all can let me know what it's about if you are perhaps, watching it. Anyhow, that's the deal. That's the summary of what's been happening in the past 24 or so hours. A lot has happened. Now, Trump is now making threats. He's going to bomb Iran. Bombs will have to drop bombs again, it looks like. That's what he's saying. So that's what we are. Okay, let's take questions. What questions do we have? I'll take as many of your questions as I can. The Eternal Witness has gifted 1 membership of the channels. Thank you so very much, the Eternal Witness, on behalf of the person who received the membership. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you. I really appreciate it. Okay. Devil X says, in a live, you said that India is one of the biggest beef exporters, but that's not true. Cow beef. That's not true. Cow beef is banned from export. Please search it. India only exports water buffalo meat. None of the calf or cow meats are allowed to be exported. Well, what's our definition of beef? I don't see the buffalo as different from cow. It's not that different. And okay, let's say technically it's a different species of animal. It has the same face, right? Just a different skin color. Cows can be various colors. Cows can be black or white or brown or red or multicolored and all. Not rainbow colored. I mean, like cats can have different colors. Cows can have. But buffaloes, the water buffaloes are always black, right? Dark colored skin, I suppose. That's what they have. But look at their face. It's the same thing. Same. These are bovine animals. I don't see it as being very different from a cow. I mean, if you see a cheetah, if you see a leopard eating a cheetah, don't you think it's cannibalism? If you see a tiger eating a leopard, don't you think it's cannibalism? I think it's cannibalism. In Africa, there are people who eat monkey meat. I think it's very close to cannibalism. Ugh. So that way, buffaloes, well, it's the same thing for me. But if it's technically true that I don't know, is it really true that there's no cow slaughter happening in India anymore, and India is not exporting cow meat? Because if you see the meat, it looks exactly the same. How do you know? Are you doing DNA tests? Officially, I don't know what the government of India says, but can you guarantee to me that there is no cow slaughter happening in India and there's no cow meat beef being exported, cow beef being exported from India? You can't guarantee that. There is nothing. There is no way you will know or not, right? The problem, my dear friends, is that if you see the meat, there is absolutely no difference in the raw flesh. It looks exactly the same. Those who eat will tell you that it probably even tastes exactly the same. It's the same thing, right? So let's not nitpick. I know that you're trying to perhaps throw some nuance on the matter. That cow and buffalo are different species. You can't say that buffalo meat is cow beef. It's different, and technically that's why India is not blah blah blah. But in India, there is no enforcement of anything. Do you understand that? There is no enforcement of any rules, any laws, anything. You have these cattle smugglers Bangladeshis who take cattle, and maybe God knows what else happening on Indian territory also. I know for a fact that there will be many. Well, I don't know for a fact for sure because I don't go and see it, but I'm pretty certain there are various parts of India where cows are being slaughtered even today, right? So that's my point. So that meat that's being exported, what's the guarantee it's not cow meat, or some of it is not cow meat? Are you doing DNA tests? If you do DNA tests, you'll know, because the buffalo genome is somewhat slightly different from the cow genome, right? It's slightly different. For example, us and chimpanzees, we are 98.99, sorry, 98.8% the same. Similarly, maybe cow and buffalo are almost the same, and maybe their meat also looks the same. So the point is, there is no guarantee that this is not happening. Officially, I don't care what the government says. Officially, the government says all kinds of things in India, right? Officially, we have traffic rules in India, but in reality, in your lived experience, you know that there is no such thing as traffic rules in India, right? There's no such thing. There's no enforcement of anything. That's my point. All right, let's come back to what we're discussing. Relationship wisdom with me is a new member. Well, thank you so much. Relationship wisdom with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you for becoming a member of this channel. And Devil X has also become a member of the channel. Thank you so very much, Devil X. I really appreciate it. Okay. Piyush Shukla says, Pranam ji, Pranam. Why the left resists naming the Hindu Kush and Xinjiang, Upari Siena, and Uttar Kuru? Will the Chinese Communist Party also resist the Uttar Kuru Nam? We should at least name Karakoram to the original name of Krishnagiri. Love your videos. Thank you so much. Names are a consequence of events. See, place names, toponyms are the consequence of events that happened historically. We have so many names in India which are named, so many place names, places in India that are named after invaders and occupiers of the country. So my point is, think about it like this: before we start renaming to the original names, places that are currently outside of Indian territory, should we not finish the job of decolonizing the names of places within India? Right? There are so many places within India that are named after invaders. Bakhtiyarpur, near Nalanda, is named after the Turkic barbarian who destroyed Nalanda. And we still have a railway station named after Bakhtiyar Khilji, Bakhtiyarpur. And there are so many other places like that in India which are named after barbarians, right? And I have nothing, what I'm saying has nothing to do with any religion. My point is, these were all barbarians who destroyed and oppressed, right? Destroyed our civilization and oppressed our people, our ancestors. Now, coming to your question, why would the left resist renaming something? The left is anti-India. The Marxists are essentially, many of them, not all, many of them essentially are mercenaries for foreign causes. See, China, during the days of Mao Zedong, was a communist nation, wasn't it? Full left. But the Chinese communists were Chinese patriots. The USSR was communist, left. It was the left. But the Russian communists were Russian patriots, Soviet patriots. It's only in India where the left, many of them are the opposite of patriots, anti-national. I'm not saying all of them, okay? Many of them must be great patriots, I'm sure. But many of them are such. And why will they, if that's why it makes sense that they will never ever support anything that has anything to do with India's civilizational resurgence. Okay? That is the issue. Now, when it comes to renaming the Hindu Kush as the Upari Siena Mountains, which was the original name, or renaming Xinjiang to Uttar Kuru, which was the absolutely original name, well, the Chinese will never ever accept that. They won't tolerate it. The Chinese are busy trying to rename parts of Arunachal Pradesh and other territories with Chinese names. They will never accept Indian names. So what we should do, okay, what we should do is we should create our own maps. Forget about the government of India; they will never do it. But how about you and me? We do that. We come up with maps, okay, of places with their original names. For example, Kashgar should be Kashinagar, Khotan should be Gosthan, Tibet should be Bhutadesh, Xinjiang should be Uttar Kuru, the so-called Hindu Kush should be the Upari Siena Mountains, right? That sort of thing. Uh, the Mount Everest should be Sagarmatha. The so-called Adam's Peak in Sri Lanka should be, what is it called? I forgot. Shiva's Peak, I think it is called, right? The so-called Adam's Bridge should be renamed to Ramasetu. We can do that. Today, you don't need to have a great amount of expertise in Photoshop or whatever to create your own maps. Let's do that. Let's do that, right? Karakoram should be renamed Krishnagiri. So let us do that. The government of India, they have their own compulsions and whatever. The Chinese have no such compulsions. They'll keep renaming things. So let's us also play the same game. And we are more numerous. So let's do it. All right. All right, people. Okay, Pratardana says, people are waking up to anti-Hindu agenda. For example, banning Hindu symbols and promoting others of some corporations. They are the same people who got rich during the British misrule. Okay, I'm not sure which corporations you're referring to, but yes, there are many such corporations that are the so-called old money corporations, which means pre-1947 is when they first emerged and made their first big money. And if you made a lot of money during the British occupation of India, it can only mean one thing, which is that you were a British collaborator. You could not make money before 1947 without collaborating with the illegal British regime that was occupying India. And those corporations after 1947 got bigger and richer. Many of them. There must be some who were not collaborators, I'm sure. It's impossible, of course. But whatever. But there are new corporations also today, which were founded much after 1947, which also have anti-Hindu agenda. They will ban you from wearing the sacred thread. They will ban girls and ladies from wearing the bindi. Don't show any Hindu symbols. It's against the dress code. That sort of thing, right? And there are multiple reasons for all of these manifestations of Hindu phobia in India. And all of that goes back to the disaster that is the Indian education system. If you fix the Indian education system, all these things will very quickly go away in a couple of generations. But of course, the Indian education system, it really, really is beneficial to maybe some within the political class, perhaps. Some of them at least. Of course, there are many politicians who are totally patriotic and totally pro-Hindu, but you see, and that's why overall the political class doesn't want to change the education system of India. They don't want to reform it. And that's the problem. Because if you teach your kids your culture, they will never ever accept this sort of thing. But if you deracinate your kids, then they'll be okay with, oh, it's just dress code. It's a modern nation today. We're secular, aren't we? That sort of thing. Yes, so there are many corporations and companies like this today, right? I'm sure there are some that are great, very, very tolerant in India of India's Hindu culture. But yeah, okay. So you're right, Pratardana. I agree with you. Right Angle says, can you tell about Hemu? He was Putin of Suri Empire. Hemachandra Vikramaditya, was the last Hindu emperor who ruled in Delhi Ka, right? And so there was this Pashtun king whose name was Sher Shah Suri. And this Pashtun king defeated the Turkic invader. Who was it? Humayun. Most likely Humayun. Yes, he defeated Humayun. So Humayun was the son of the original Turkic invader, Zahiruddin Babar. And Humayun inherited the throne of the small Turkic kingdom in Delhi. But Humayun was a loser. Simplest way of putting it, he was a loser. He was good for nothing. He had no qualities, no talent, no whatever. He did not know how to rule his kingdom. He did not know how to safeguard his kingdom. So an indigenous king from the northern part of India, Gandhar, okay, Sher Shah Suri, who was obviously a converted person. Sher Shah Suri, he was a Muslim, he was a Pashtun, but he was indigenous to India. He was not a Turk. So Sher Shah Suri defeated Humayun and kicked him out from Delhi. And Humayun was forced to go to Persia and beg for asylum. King Tahmasp of the Safavid dynasty. Yeah. And Tahmasp forced Humayun to become Shia. But Sher Shah Suri ruled over Delhi for 5 years. He was also pretty brutal and cruel and all that. Okay, let's not forget that. Towards Indians, despite being Indian himself. He was born in Bihar and he was Pashtun. He was not a foreigner. So Sher Shah Suri ruled for 5 years, and then he was fiddling around with gunpowder or something, and he blew himself up. Okay, he was experimenting with gunfire or whatever, gunpowder or something, and he blew himself up. And then his general, Vikramaditya, Hemachandra Vikramaditya, was then crowned the ruler by the army of Sher Shah Suri, who was mostly Pashtuns. But they chose Hemachandra Vikramaditya as their king because he was the most worthy. There was nobody among the Pashtuns or the Muslims who was as great a general and a warrior as Hemachandra Vikramaditya. So they enthroned him in Delhi through Vedic rituals. So that's the deal about Hemu. He was the last Hindu emperor in Delhi. And then eventually he fought Akbar. And just like what happened in the year 1066 in the Battle of Hastings in England, the same thing happened to Hemu. A stray arrow in the eye. And that was the end of it. And then Akbar, I think Akbar's general Bahram Khan or something, he chopped off the head of Hemu, put it on a spear, and he sent it to Kabul. Okay, to terrorize the locals of Kabul. See what we did to your king. That sort of thing. So that's the deal about Hemu. Okay. Rohan Bedi says, origin of the Vakataks and their contribution to our civilization. The Vakatak, that is a kingdom, pretty large kingdom that was in the Deccan region, right? Where did the successors of the Satavahanas were possible? I think they could be the success. I don't remember right now. They possibly were the successors or one of the successor states eventually of the Satavahanas. And the Vakataks, they eventually were vassalized by the Guptas. Okay. So one of the Gupta emperors, I forget which one, he had a daughter called Prabhavati Gupta, and she had married one of the Vakatak kings. And regrettably, this king died early, and his two sons with Prabhavati Gupta, they were very young. So Prabhavati Gupta had to rule the Vakatak kingdom as the regent, as the mother, as the Rajmata of the two young princes. And obviously, she was the daughter of the emperor, the Gupta emperor. And through her good offices, the Guptas were able to essentially vassalize the Vakatak kingdom. But it was a vassal kingdom eventually, not destroyed or something. The Guptas did not want to do that. There was no need to do that. We're a civilization, aren't we? So that's kind of what it was. Okay, I don't remember the details right now about the Vakataks, but it was a very good kingdom, very good living standards, and very well organized and so on. That's what I can remember right now. Probably, if I'm not mistaken, one of the successor states of the Satavahanas, but don't quote me on that. I don't remember right now. Anchadivu says, you say that India is the most Hindu-phobic nation in the world. Slightly disagree, only second to Pakistan, but more importantly, keep hydrating. Well, you know what? Maybe I stand corrected. Maybe third after East and West Pakistan, possibly. Yeah. But so you're probably right. That's a important nuance to catch. And thank you for the hydration reminder. Now let me quickly scan the live chat. Do we know what Mr. Modi is speaking about? What was he speaking about today? I mean, he should be doing his address to the nation right now. I have no idea. I don't think anyone's tweeting about that. I think everyone's watching this. I mean, at least those of you who are live on this live stream, I think you are all watching this only. Um. Anyway, it's okay. We will sooner or later find out what Mr. Modi had to say today. All right. Okay. What's next? This is by Manihar Shogajam. Manihar Shogajam. Good to have you, Manihar Shogajam. Thank you so much for your very kind words. Enjoying every podcast. Thank you so very much. Thank you so much. Dev Joshi says, do you think deeper AI penetration would reduce the cognitive ability of the human brain due to AI's increased dependency, making it dumber than what it's today? See, right now, AI hasn't. It's a good question, very good question. Let me address it properly. So, right now, the truth is that AI has hardly penetrated um our societies, the society of each nation. India is one of the nations that has been kind of more of an adapter of AI, adopter of AI compared to some other countries. But most people they use AI as a chatbot, right? You may have whatever AI that you can have Chat GPT, you can have whatever else exists, and most people what they do is they do Q&A. Hey, what about this? Can you fact check this? Some people use it as a friend. They talk about how am I feeling, and the AI say, "Yeah, you're right," and that sort of thing. That's all you use it for. Most people, but those who use it in that manner are the early adopters of AI. But I think it's a very small percentage of those people who actually have a paid subscription to AI. And if you have a paid subscription, I think the baseline paid subscriptions are $20 a month or something, right? I suppose. So if you have a paid subscription, then you're gonna be making some good use of it, I suppose, like some professional use of it. And those people, they are kind of more advanced users than the people who just use the free basic version. The one and perhaps you will use it for work. There are people who run businesses out of their laptops, content creation or whatever. You meet people and hi. So that sort of thing. And then there are people who take the pro or max or whatever version, which costs about $200 a month. Now, those people are building stuff. And I suppose if you're paying that much, then you take it very seriously and you learn how to actually use AI. And the ones who actually use AI, they will understand that AI is a game changer. It's transformative. Okay. But most people, like I said, the overwhelming majority of those who have adopted AI, they use it to outsource their thinking. You know what? Thinking is painful. Thinking is hard. I don't want to think. You tell me. Chalo, you tell me. What is this? What is that? Tell me everything. Tell me everything. So the effect that has on those who use it in that manner is that the people who use AI as a crutch or as something to outsource thinking to, those people they lose the habit of thinking, right? And that if you fall into that trap, it does make you dumb, and that unfortunately is the vast majority of AI adopters. Yeah. So if let's say out of 100% Indian population, maybe let's say 20% have adopted AI. I would say maybe 1% or 0.1% are actually using AI uh, to more than 50% of its potential. The vast majority are just using it as a chatbot or as a friend. Yeah. So that's unfortunate. And if you use it in that manner, it's going to make you dumb, right? Just tell me all the facts. I don't know how to think. I don't know to look. I don't know to do any fact checking. Just tell me how many states do we have in India? Even that is a good use of AI, but some people use it as a as a virtual friend, and there must be, I'm sure, much weirder uses of it. So, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, most people will become dumb because of AI because they use it in this manner. Unfortunately, it'll, like you say, reduce the cognitive ability of the human brain. Yeah, because you become dependent. You use it as a crutch. You use it as something you outsource your thinking to. Then you don't think anymore. I have this thing. Which thing's for me? Why should I think? Easy life. Okay. Tanmay Deshpande says India and Russia have signed a pact for a reciprocal deployment of 3,000 troops. Russia also pledged unlimited oil and energy supplies to India. Will it piss off the US and China? So India and Russia did sign this reciprocal this pact for some kind of reciprocal um, deployment of troops, up to 3,000 troops. I'd seen it, but I don't have the links right now, so I don't know. So the deal seems to be that India can deploy up to 3,000 troops on Russian territory, and Russia can deploy up to 3,000 troops on Indian territory. Right? So it's like the troops who are deployed in the respective nations, they are guests. They're not occupiers. Okay, it's just like 3,000 troops, but it's good. It shows that we trust each other, right? It also sends a signal to various nations that these two countries, they have kind of a special relationship. We won't host 3,000 troops of the Americans in India, or God forbid the goddamn British. We don't want any a single British uniformed person in India, don't we? Isn't that true? But Russians, fine, we'll be fine with that. And Russia has also pledged, like you say, uh, that it will supply as much oil and energy to India as India needs. Well, that's fantastic. That tells you that we actually can trust Russia. And when Russia says this, they will actually make it happen. It's not just empty words. We know that. When it comes to Russia, we know that it's not empty words. They actually mean it, and they'll actually do it. The thing is, will the US allow this? The US will not be pleased, like you say. Of course, it will, like you say, piss them off. The US won't be pleased, right? They may try to do something to impede the shipments of Russian oil to India, because those shipments, we haven't opened the map today. Let's open the map. So, when you have Russian oil coming to India, where does it start from? Is the question. And what route does it take to reach India? Okay, so see, Russian oil typically starts around the St. Petersburg region. Okay, they have ports in this region. So then, let's say it's the St. Petersburg region where the Russian oil tankers start the journey from. Then they have to pass through the Gulf of Finland, which is kind of a choke point, not exactly a very narrow choke point, but it's a choke point. 20-ish kilometers wide, and it's between Estonia and Finland, which are not exactly friendly to Russia. Then it has to pass through the Baltic Sea. Okay, it has to transit between the Baltic nations and Sweden, Copenhagen, uh, and then, or maybe it has to, yeah, there's no other way, right? So it has to transit through this region, go through these choke points, whichever one you choose. These are all choke points, and then come out into the North Sea. From the North Sea, you can either go through the English Channel, or you can go maybe through English territory, English owned territories like the Shetland Islands, the Hebrides, the Faroe Islands, whatever. Not the Faroe, they're not English, right? So once again, these are all NATO dominated regions. And then you come on to into the Atlantic, then you come down south, and you have to pass through the Strait of Gibraltar, which again is a choke point, which is essentially owned by NATO. You pass through the Mediterranean, which is NATO all over the place. Yeah. Once again, here you have not exactly a choke point, it's pretty wide. Yeah. Then you come eastwards. Then you have to transit Suez, which again is NATO owned. And then you have to go through the Red Sea. Then you have to again transit the Strait of Bab el Mandeb. And then you start coming home towards India. And if Suez is not available for whatever reason, then you have to go all the way down south through the Cape of so called Good Hope, and then make your way back up north from the Indian Ocean. As you can see, it's a very long journey. It takes, I don't know, 25, 30 days, maybe 35 days or something around that sort of time period for Russian oil to make the entire journey from Russia, St. Petersburg, that region, to India. And there is plenty of opportunity for the Americans and their vassals to play mischief if they want. So that's something we have to be cognizant of. It's not easy for Russia to deliver oil to India. It's not easy for them to do that, right? But yeah, they'll try their best. Okay. Okay. Somya Parsai says, how will this war, where Iran has taught a good lesson to the US, how will it affect USA's future regime change and other military operations? Right, so you are right. In this war, Iran has indeed taught a lesson to the US. The US has been caught off guard. They have been very badly embarrassed. No question about that. They have been dealt a strategic defeat on the battlefield. And because of that, the US is right now trying to achieve a victory on the negotiating table. What they could not achieve on the battlefield, they want to achieve through negotiations. And obviously, Iran isn't that stupid. So, so how will this affect the future actions of the US, future military operations? Well, I'll tell you what. It has obviously dealt a significant blow to the prestige of the United States. US prestige has been dented. The United States has kind of been humiliated, right? It doesn't affect the overall military capabilities and the overall power of the US, but this is a model that other nations can use. How the Iranians have been able to defeat the Americans through the old adage that quantity has a quality of its own. And this is something China can use against the US in the Eastern theater, whether it is Taiwan, whether it's whatever else, right? So, other nations, those who have the capacity to replicate what Iran has done and perhaps scale it further, those nations, the Americans can't defeat them. And if the US fights such nations, it's going to be dealt a disastrous defeat. So the Chinese, for example, see, how has Iran defeated the US strategically? They did their homework. Okay, they have stockpiled definitely more than 100,000 drones and tens of thousands of various missiles, ballistic missiles. Quantity, right? The Chinese can stockpile potentially millions of drones if they want. And they can certainly stockpile tens of thousands of ballistic missiles and cruise missiles and other kinds of missiles. Taiwan can't withstand that. The United States can't withstand that. Even the American allies like South Korea and Japan, which will be used as cannon fodder by the Americans in case of a war, they can't deal with that, right? Of course, Japan has a frighteningly good submarine arm and whatnot. But so you see, this war that Iran has fought, it has demonstrated how a nation like the US can be defeated on the battlefield. Okay? So it definitely will influence future military operations. If the US gets involved in a military confrontation with China or something, the Chinese will have learned the lesson. And they most likely, they'll be much more of a handful than Iran, right? The Chinese. It's also a lesson for India. I'm not saying India should fight the US. I'm not saying that, okay? My point is, India, also the lessons are applicable to India as well. In any future confrontation with anybody, quantity has a quality of its own. As long as your quantity, as long as your equipment and your weapons are of decent quality and you can produce them at scale, nobody can beat you. You'll be able to overwhelm everyone just through sheer force of numbers, right? So that's the lesson for India as well. Regime change operations, it's a whole different story. That's not a military thing, right? Regime change operations are, you could say, black operations, right? Not overt operations, but covert operations. So that's a whole different story. It's not part of the military domain. So regime change, the Americans will continue. You can obviously do a regime change in a weak, helpless country if you want. That, and the Americans typically do it in weak, helpless countries or countries that are run by greedy parasites. I'm sure you can think of some examples. So regime change operations won't be affected. But military operations, those who have the wherewithal, the capacity to scale what Iran did to the next level, well, the US will find them a handful if they ever get into a military confrontation. Narendra Deshpande says, if what you say is true, 50% chance that the third country which will get uranium could be Pakistan. Trump and Sharif are both too happy with each other. I don't think at all that this third country will be Pakistan. If Iran is forced to hand over 50, whatever amount of its uranium to Pakistan, it will be a humiliation and a defeat for Iran. See, Iran and Pakistan are adversaries, they are not friends. And Iran has not been defeated on the battlefield. So, if I am a nation that is not defeated on the battlefield, why will I hand over my highly enriched uranium to my enemy? Why? I will do that only if I am forced at gunpoint, right? Which means only if I have been defeated and I have no choice. But Iran has not been defeated. Iran is actually strategically victorious. And no one can force them to hand it over to Pakistan. So the third country will most likely, if this happens, first of all, we don't know if this will happen, okay? That Iran will hand over 50% or whatever percentage of its uranium to third country. But if it does happen, it will most likely be Russia. Russia is the first candidate. The second candidate is China. The Americans probably won't accept China. So if Iran and the US come to an agreement, most likely it will be Russia, because Russia anyway has so much uranium. They export uranium to the Americans. So it most likely will be Russia. Number one candidate is Russia. Number two is China. The US will say no to China. So it has to be Russia. I can't think of any other country. Pakistan, the Iranians will never ever accept it. That is humiliation for them. Okay, it will not be the case. Iran will be in a position where it hands over uranium to Pakistan only if it is defeated completely. That obviously is not the case. So not happening. Sorry. Bhargava says, India has not openly supported Israel. Iran in the past raked up Kashmir. Historically, is there anything friendly from Iran for India? Historically, if you go back 1300, 1400 years ago, we were extremely friendly, Iran and India. We are kin, we are blood relatives, India and Iran. So 13 or 1400 years ago, India and Iran were like cousins. We were the same people. And when the Iranians were invaded and occupied by the Rashidun Caliphate, where did the Persians escape? Where did they flee? They fled to India, nowhere else to go, but with your relatives, right? So historically, if you go back 1300 years, which is a long time ago, we were the best of friends. Then the Rashidun Caliphate took over. Then the Umayyad Caliphate took over, right? So these two caliphates were terrible for Iran, and that's where everything went wrong for Iran. And the people of Iran, over a couple of centuries, maybe 3 centuries or so, were almost entirely converted. And then Iran became a totally different culture, right? Totally different. And then Iran came under the rule of the Turks. So first it was the Arabs, the Rashidun, Umayyad, and there's a third one, right? Which one is it? There's a third one. Rashidun Caliphate, Umayyad Caliphate, Abbasid. The Abbasids were Persianized. And so then Persians rule again. And then you have Turks ruling over Persia. Seljuks, I think. And then you have a couple of 2-3 Persian dynasties that come and go. Then you have the Mongols. And then you have Turks again. And then it's long story. So Iran became a totally different culture. And a couple of 2.5 or so centuries ago, Nadir Shah of Iran came and invaded India and plundered India. And in one day, just one day, he killed more than 100,000 people in Delhi. Nadir Shah. Now remember this thing, Nadir Shah was not Persian. He was a Turk. He was a Turk ruling over Persia, just like Aurangzeb was a Turk ruling over India. That was the thing. And fast forward to the 20th century, as long as the Shah, the so-called Shah of Iran was ruling, he was pro-Pakistan, anti-India. He supported Pakistan in 1965. Right? After the Ayatollahs took over in 1979, they haven't been exactly friendly with India, and they haven't been exactly adversarial with India. It's like we have decent relations, not warm, you could even say it's kind of warmish relations, but not like friendly relations. Let's hug each other. That not that sort of thing, right? Because it's been so long since Iran has been culturally transformed, right? Uh, I don't think Iranians even remember that they were once kin of Indians, right? So that's the deal. So if you understand the history, you'll understand that today the relationship is very different. It's not really a relationship of great warmth and hugs and embraces and all that. But we have decent relations. We today know that we have had those ancient ties with each other, and we also have common enemies like Pakistan. So that is the situation. There is a very honest appraisal, and you will see from time to time various Iranian Twitter accounts, thanking India and Kashmir separately. So because of the religious issue, they take Pakistan's side on Kashmir sometimes. Some of them, not all of them, some of them. Even the Ayatollah who was assassinated by the Americans, Mr. Khamenei, he from time to time used to say, take the name of Kashmir and Palestine in the same breath. The point is, the Ayatollahs, the Persian government, sometimes from time to time, they do rake up Kashmir verbally, but they have never done anything to actually support Pakistan or support terrorism in Kashmir. Their support has only been verbal. So Iran does that from time to time. Just like if you look at Israeli government maps, they show Kashmir and Arunachal Pradesh not part of India. Same thing. Same thing. Right? So that's just how it is. International relations is complicated. Right? There are no unconditional friends and allies in the world. Ragveer Singh says, question 1, what is happening in Israel? Question 2, I think there's a kind of minor rift between the US and Israel. Netanyahu has dragged the US into war, yet it got bombed. How Netanyahu got Trump to do blunders and the US is still kind of good, but Israel got bombed. Well, the US did not bomb Israel, right? It was Iran who bombed Israel. The Americans supplied Israel with as many weapons, as many missiles, whatever they could. I mean, Israel was running out of bombs, right? Israel was running out of munitions for bombing Gaza. So they had to ask Trump for more, or the US for more, and the US supplied them with this. Okay? But then the Israelis start the war against Iran. And they thought that just like in 2025, when we just bombed Iran and Iran launched a few ballistic missiles at us, but did not really much of a difference. They thought this way this year in 2026 it's gonna be a cakewalk for us. So the Israelis initiated the war, they dragged the Americans into it, and then the Iranians showed what they had really been preparing for. And they overwhelmed the missile defenses of the United States and Israel at the same time. And Israel has taken a terrible beating. Much of that is censored on social media, right? But Israel has been hit very, very badly by the Iranians. They had no idea that this was gonna come at them. So yes, you're right. Netanyahu dragged the United States into the war. Israel got bombed. What can the US do about that? Who started the war first of all? The Israelis started the war. Secondly, they had this Iron Dome and all that, but they did not account for the number of drones and missiles that will be launched at them. Their Iron Dome interceptor missiles are almost exhausted. Now they are only used for protecting very critical sites. The rest of the missiles, they just fall without even an interception being attempted. The Americans, see the Gulf nations, I'll tell you what, the Gulf nations, they privately are unhappy with the US because the US has been more interested in defending Israel than the Gulf nations. Right? So the US has tried its best to defend Israel. But what can you do? The Iranians did their homework. They've really, really, really hit hard at the Americans and Israelis at the same time. I don't know about a rift between the US and Israel. Yeah, Trump did put that social media post, prohibiting Israel from hitting Lebanon, and Israel didn't care, right? Um, that yeah. So, and how did Netanyahu get Trump to do this? Well, that is a big secret that nobody knows why. Maybe it's the Epstein files, perhaps. Maybe Israel is the actual deep state. We don't know what it is, but whatever Israel says, the Americans do it. That is a fact. Okay. Amisha Mishra says many reasons Indra worship stopped. Many reasons why Indra worship stopped. What you think? Okay. So there was a time in Bharatvarsha, in India, in the Indian subcontinent, there was a time when Indra was the greatest of the gods, was the primary god that was worshipped in India. Indra was the greatest god of the Vedic pantheon. Okay, he was the greatest and strongest and mightiest of the gods. He was the great Vritrahan, the one who killed Vritra, the great Ahi Vritra, the great serpent or dragon, or whatever you want to call him, Vritra. And that story is repeated all across the Indo-European universe, right? I mean, Zeus kills Typhon, and Thor kills Jormungandr, and so on. Same story. So Indra was the greatest of the gods, and Indra was the god of the hammer and the thunderbolt. So in the uh, Nordic universe, Indra is Thor, and he is the hammer god and the thunder god. In India, he is the god with whose weapon is the Vajra, and the Vajra is a hammer and a thunderbolt at the same time. Right. The Vajra was crafted out of the rib bones of Rishi Twashtri, I think. And it was needed to kill Vritra. So Indra was the greatest of gods. He was the god of thunder. He was the god of rain. So why did we stop worshipping Indra is the question. And this seems to have happened a long time ago, because you don't even have temples to Indra today. You still have, for example, Dyash Pitru and Prithvi Mata. At least some murtis of these, the oldest god and goddess, Dyash Pitru and Prithvi Mata. You still find these murtis in some Hindu temples today. But you don't see any murti ever of Indra. It's like Indra was just, you stop worshipping him completely. Why is that? We still worship other Vedic gods. Rudra is still worshipped. Rudra is one of the greatest of gods, right, today. He was obviously a great god during the Vedic times too. But primarily it was about Indra. What happened is the question. Well, you see, my hypothesis, I don't know what historians say. Historians with degrees, I don't know what they say, what they write. I don't think anyone even has written about this, as far as I know. My hypothesis is that the role of Indra changed and evolved over time. Let's say 5,000 BC. See, I don't know when the events of the Rig Veda happened, right? The Rig Veda talks about actual historical events, geopolitical events like the Battle of the Ten Kings. It also talks about much older memories of Indra killing Vritra. Maybe Indra, perhaps, is a very ancient ancestor and a great warrior or something. I don't know. So his role evolved over time. For a while, for a long time, he was a warrior god, god of the thunderbolt, god of the Vajra. Maybe later he became a rain god. Right? Today, people kind of remember Indra as a rain god. And then what happened? Something happened in India. Something traumatic happened in India. What was the trauma? Our great river, the Saraswati, dried out. She died. She disappeared. She left. Who was the cause of that? What was the cause of it? A dearth of rainfall, extended period of drought and no rains. Who's to blame for that? I suppose you blame Indra for that. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe that's why people said, okay, if Saraswati leaves us, we will no longer worship Indra, who was responsible for the Saraswati being with us. Maybe it was that, I suppose. Okay. Krishanta Bordoloy says, hey, here in Assam, we sacrifice water buffaloes during Durga Puja. It's a popular ritual because Mahishasur was a buffalo and I'm a Hindu Brahmin. Look, it's fine. I may not like it, but it doesn't mean it's wrong or right or whatever. See, what we call Hinduism is an extremely diverse religion. And there is no right or wrong in Hinduism. Some people are pure vegetarian. Some people eat everything except for cow, right? It's fine. I know that the buffalo is a separate species. For me, it's the same thing. For me, the cow and the buffalo have almost the same face. I mean, if you look at a dog and a wolf, they have the same face, right? If you look at a dog and a bear, also, they have very similar faces. So I see things that way. But it doesn't mean it's the same thing. You can do whatever you want, which is allowed in the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda never says you can't eat meat. So it's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. Everyone has the right to their traditions and customs. Okay? And they should have the right to the traditions and customs. That's what makes us who we are. Part of the Indian civilization as Hindus. Some of us, pure vegetarians. Some of us eat everything apart from that one meat. Perfectly fine. Perfectly good. Wonderful. That's what makes India so diverse and beautiful and unique. Okay. Abhiman Gopinath says, is Israel a USI for holding the Middle East like Pakistan, but better? That's a very interesting comparison you make. Is Israel somehow similar to Pakistan? Let me think about it. Pakistan, when was it created? 1949. Which year was Israel created? 1948? Sorry, Pakistan was created in 1947. What am I saying? So Pakistan was created artificially. An artificial temporary nation was created in 1947 out of the motherland India. And Israel was created in 1948, right? Yeah. You could say an artificial nation. Maybe not, because it's the original homeland of the Jewish people. Nobody can not deny that. But yeah, it was artificially created, Israel. Is that the only similarity there is? I don't know. You can think about it. But it kind of is. There are some parallels between Israel and Pakistan. Some. Not a whole lot others, but some. 24 Bharat says, Indian communism devolved from the likes of HSRA and Bhagat Singh to the CPM and the Naxalist trash we have today. There is no nationalist left in India among the communists, you mean? Okay. I don't know what the HSRA is or was. Bhagat Singh, some people say he was a communist. Look, I'll tell you something about Bhagat Singh. Bhagat Singh, at what age did he die? Let me see. Let's find out, okay? Let's find out together. I don't know at what age did Bhagat Singh die? So he died at the age of 23. And you say he was a communist. At the age of 23, you have no idea what you're doing in life. You're trying different things. Let's say Mr. Mohandas Gandhi intervened and prevented the British from hanging Bhagat Singh. Then do you think by the age of 43 he would still be a communist? I promise you he would not be a communist. It is said that if you, and it doesn't apply to me, it is said that if you aren't a communist in your 20s, you don't have a heart, and if you are still a communist in your 30s, you don't have a brain. That's what some people say. So clearly I have no heart, because I've never been a communist. But lots of people go through all these phases of communism and they're trying different things. Bhagat Singh tried something. That age, he felt that this is something interesting. Maybe I should try it out. And that's why you do things, right? You try different hairstyles, try different whatever. So you try different political inclinations too as a young person. So I don't think Bhagat Singh would have remained a communist his entire life. He was a very intelligent person. He was trying something at that time, at the age of 23. Now, when it comes to HSRA, what is that? Let's see. HSRA. What is that? Hindustan Socialist Republican Association was a radical Indian revolutionary organization founded in 1928 at Delhi's Firoz Shah Kotla by leaders like Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad, and Sukhdev. It aimed to overthrow British rule through armed revolution and establish a socialist India. Okay. I got it. Okay. So, right. Well, they had the right idea to get rid of the British by force. That was the right way. Yeah. Mohit Bhatt says two Indian vessels attacked in the Strait of Hormuz by Iran. Yeah, I discussed that. I discussed it. It looks like that's what actually has happened. And the Iranian foreign minister was summoned today evening, just a couple of hours ago, by our external affairs ministry to give an explanation of what's happened. I mean, why? Aren't we friendly countries? We aren't fighting each other. We aren't enemies. We have good relations. Why did this happen? Please explain. So, yeah. So I don't know how it happened, why it happened, but it should not have happened. I completely agree with that. Yeah. Somalia Paul says, do you know, sir? Sakha and Parshwaka clan is mentioned in Mahabharata. Damn, they are so old. Your views. The Shakas are mentioned in the Mahabharata. The Parshwa are mentioned in the Mahabharata. The Parshwa clan. The Parshwa clan, yeah, sure. So Scythians and Persians, of course. Are the Sakha and Parshwa clans mentioned in the Mahabharata? Based on the Mahabharata. So this is the Google AI talking, okay? So I don't know if it's true entirely, but let's just go through this. Based on the Mahabharata, the Parshva, also called the Parshu or the Parshava, are mentioned as a warrior tribe, while the Sakha are not mentioned as a distinct clan, though the Shakas, the Scythians, are frequently mentioned as a prominent tribe. Okay, that was a Saka, whatever. Okay, so the Scythians, right? They are mentioned as a prominent tribe. Parshva, Parshu, Parshava, they are mentioned, etc. Those are Persians, obviously, right? Associated with the ancestor of the Persians, obviously, Persepolis was Parshvapur. And the Sakas, Scythians, Shaka are frequently mentioned, along with the Pahlavas, Yavanas, Kambojas, Khasas. Okay, Kamboja is not mentioned here. Parshva are categorized as Ayuddhajivi, those who live by weapons. And the Sakas are some of the kings that attended the Rajasuya Yagna of Yudhishthir. Right, okay, so yeah, of course. So clearly the Mahabharata happened closer to today compared to the Ramayana. The Ramayana happened much before the Mahabharata. And I suppose the Rig Veda predates all of that. Yeah. All right. Rajat says, how are you? I'm good. Thank you. I hope you're doing great. Not taking name, but some defense experts are saying India already well past the second stage nuclear. So some defense experts are saying India has already gone way past the second stage of the three-stage nuclear program, and Navik is working perfectly fine. What's my view? I don't have a view. I have an understanding. Okay? India has just entered the second stage of its three-stage nuclear program. And once again, to explain, I mean, you can believe or not, that's up to you. Okay, you can obviously believe the experts and their opinions, but let me show you. I have a few days ago I tweeted about this, and I've tried to make it as simple as possible. So let me just pull out my tweet. Where is that tweet of mine? Where is the tweet? So it was in it quoted the Indian Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, and his. Okay, here we are. So let's put this on the screen. So Mr. Modi had tweeted about this, right? See, here we see it. Mr. Modi tweeted, today India takes a defining step in its civil nuclear journey, advancing the second stage of its nuclear program. The indigenously designed and built prototype fast breeder reactor at Kalapakkam has attained criticality and so on and so forth. This reactor capable of producing more fuel than it consumes and so on and so forth. Okay. So advancing the second stage is how he tweeted, which is kind of ambiguous. But the fact is, India has just officially started its transition into stage 2 of Dr. Homi J. Bhabha's three-stage nuclear program. Let's understand what are the three stages. Stage 1 is pressurized heavy water reactors. This stage is already complete and fully operational. India has about 22 to 25, whatever the number is, pressurized heavy water reactors, which generate power and accumulate plutonium-239 fuel. And this plutonium-239 fuel it is needed to fuel and to feed stage 2. Stage two is fast breeder reactors. These fast breeder reactors, they use stage one plutonium as fuel, and they are loaded with a blanket of uranium 238 and thorium 232 around the core. These fast breeder reactors convert the uranium 238 and thorium 232 into more fissile fuel, which is more plutonium 239 and uranium 233 from the thorium. So the reactor, it actually breeds more fuel than it burns. The Kalapakkam fast breeder reactor is now sustaining a controlled fission chain reaction. It has not yet started the breeding process. Okay, we've just started the reactor. And stage three is advanced heavy water reactors on thorium. This is our end goal. This is where we want to be. Advanced heavy water reactors will use the uranium 233 that is bred in stage two as their main fuel, along with thorium 232. And India has the world's largest reserves of thorium. So this will give India virtually inexhaustible indigenous clean nuclear energy for centuries. India is beginning its transition into stage two. This is the first stage two reactor, Kalapakkam. Okay? That's the deal. This is the truth. I don't know what your experts are telling you. I know such experts. They are wrong. They're absolutely, utterly wrong. India has entered stage two now. Kalapakkam is the first stage two reactor. Those experts have no idea what they're talking about. When it comes to Navik, our Navik is not functional anymore. If you have low Earth orbit LEO satellites, that's not Navik. Low Earth orbit satellites are spy satellites, military satellites. They can give you imagery of the surface of the planet. They can't give you satellite positioning GPS like signals. They can't. Because for GPS like signals, you need geostationary satellites, not low Earth satellites, low Earth orbit satellites. See, low Earth orbit satellites typically are in an orbit that's about, let's say, lowest end is 150 kilometers above the surface, typically 200 kilometers above the surface, up to maybe 700 kilometers above the surface of the Earth. So between 200 kilometers above the surface to 700 kilometers or 800 kilometers above the surface, that's low Earth orbit. Let's say 500 kilometers as an average. Geostationary satellites are at an altitude of 36,000 kilometers, roughly. Do you know the difference between 500 and 36,000? There's no comparison. The Navik satellites are geostationary satellites, 36,000 kilometers away. Low Earth orbit satellites are 500 kilometers away. There's no comparison. Your low Earth orbit satellites can't fill in for the dead Navik satellites, the ones whose atomic clocks have stopped functioning. Why do we need atomic clocks? They're incredibly accurate, and you need the accuracy to account for general relativistic corrections and spatial relativistic corrections. There are time dilation and all that from Einstein's theory. That's why you need atomic clocks, rubidium-based clocks. And only 3 satellites are functional now. With those atomic clocks still functioning, you need at least 4 to be functional to get a proper signal. Otherwise, your signal will drift by 100 kilometers, 200 kilometers. Your Navik is not functional anymore. And if some defense experts are saying it's still functional, they are clueless. You can fact check what I am saying, okay? Please fact check me. Fact check me. Go to the scientific literature, ask your chat GPT, whatever. It's the truth. Okay, Fake ID says, if India becomes a superpower like the US, should we seek retribution for colonial atrocities, famines, and enslavement of our ancestors? Or is it better to move on and coexist with past oppressors? See, first of all, if you are a regular viewer of my channel, what kind of image is that? I didn't see that. Okay. Listen, first of all, if you are a regular viewer of this channel, you will know that I keep saying this, that India should erase the 2 words from its vocabulary for at least 20 years. One is superpower. The second is Vishwaguru. We should stop talking about being a superpower of Vishwaguru. We are not even a regional power right now. Okay, we are a great regional power, but in our own subcontinent, we are dominated by the US. And Vishwaguru, we are not even Vishwa student right now. Our education system is one of the worst in the world. Now, coming to this term superpower. If India becomes a superpower like the US, should we seek retribution? See, if you become a superpower like the US, it means you are now an empire. The US is an empire, it's an imperial entity. Empires behave in certain ways. India has had empires: the Maurya Empire, the Gupta Empire, the Kushan Empire, the Chola Empire. Empires don't tolerate any BS from anyone. Otherwise, you're not an empire. I don't know if empires necessarily seek retribution for past atrocities, but it could happen. I would say, look, I would say if we become a superpower, we are the most powerful military and we are the most technologically advanced nation. We should just ignore our former oppressors or past oppressors. We don't need to uplift them to our level. Should ignore them, let them be where they are. We go on with our life. We go on to the moon and to the Mars and to the next stellar system. We colonize. We habitate the solar system and beyond, and we do it. Not we don't bring our past oppressors with us. We let them be where they are, right? So that's how I would say we should be, because our culture is not one of retribution, right? It doesn't mean that we should uplift them, leave them where they are. That's what I would say. But I don't know. Empires behave in certain ways, and no matter who you are, if you are an empire, well, certain things happen, I suppose. 24 Bharat says Great Britain, Netherlands, East India companies were the first corporate stock markets. See, it's an interesting story. Interesting story. I'll tell you how it's interesting. So the Spaniards, they funded the first colonial expeditions. Queen Isabella and her husband Ferdinand, they funded this Italian pirate, right? Whose name was Don Cristobal Colon, also known as Christopher Columbus. He said, I find you India. Yes, Bambina, tutti frutti, I find you India. So they funded him. They gave him a couple of, those ships. I forgot the names. And he said, I will go westwards and the earth is round, so I'll find India. And he ended up in the Bahamas or wherever. He said, I have discovered India. Yes, tutti frutti. And so on. And the Spaniards then started colonizing in the most brutal ways imaginable these regions, starting with the Caribbean region, Dominica, Haiti, Cuba, all that. Eventually they moved into La Florida and South America and so on. Most brutal. And their colonization was funded by the crown. It was all funded by the crown. But in England was late in the game of colonization. But their game was more sustainable. They formed joint stock companies. And then they started the process of colonizing a region they called Virginia in the United States, now the United States, which was a disaster. Jamestown was an utter disaster. The Americans don't want to recognize Jamestown as the actual founding of the United States. They say, no, it's Plymouth. But Jamestown was the real thing. Captain John Smith. And another joint stock company founded in around 1600 was the East India Company. So these were joint stock companies, not funded by the crown. These were funded by wealthy business people who came together, pooled their money together into joint stock companies, and that gave them a sustainable way of running these businesses. So yes, you're right. These were joint stock companies. Aries Manticore says, I saw the GC movement implode. General category movement implode when someone suggested allying with Pakistan and Islam. No one objected in that group. Happened right around the Nashik TCS issue. Don't know what to say at all. Psyops? I am not aware of this. I have no idea, unfortunately. But whatever is happening, see, forget about the religious matter. If someone suggests allying with Pakistan and nobody objects, so something is wrong with their brains. Maybe the whole group is compromised. I mean, you're talking about WhatsApp groups or something else like that? I don't know what it is. Somebody suggested allying with Pakistan in a WhatsApp group, is it? Or is it on social media? I'm not sure about that. I have no idea. But no sensible person will ever entertain seriously the notion of India or anybody in India allying with Pakistan. No sane person will ever contemplate or that sort of notion ever seriously. Um. So okay. So if there is a, I don't know, Twitter group, WhatsApp group, whatever it is, and no one objected. Maybe they're all compromised. Maybe they're all fake Indians. Maybe they're all Pakistanis pretending to be Indians. I have no idea. Right? The Nashik TCS issue, I looked into it a little bit more. Another ghastly thing, which is merely a symptom of the ills that plague India's society today. Our our ongoing deracination and the overall Hindu phobia that plagues India like a miasma that never lifts. What can I say? Yeah, it's unfortunate and it's terrible, and something needs to be done about it. Yeah. Awesome, Arnav says. Huge fan, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Built a digital Abhijit prototype. Not perfect yet, but live. Would love to collaborate. Voice coming soon. Checkin.cool/Abhijit. Okay. Is it the URL I was saying? Checkin.cool/Abhijit. .cool/Abhijit. So what's this digital Abhijit prototype? Is it like an AI that speaks, or an AI that is essentially a digital version of me? Is that what you mean? So you can train an AI model with the thought patterns and ideas, etc., of any person, and that AI model will then essentially be a digital version of you. You can do that today. You can even have voice mode, and you can actually train the AI on my voice, because I've got thousands of hours of my voice in the public domain. So it's not going to be difficult if you use 11 labs or whatever to train their AI models on my voice. It's going to do a perfect impression of me, because you can train it on thousands of hours of my voice. So you have a digital AI prototype. Not perfect yet. Of course, it takes time to iteratively make it good, but it's live. So let me see, what is this checkin.cool/Abhijit? I don't know what that means, but is that a URL you're talking about? Let me see. Let me see. Checkin.cool/Abhijit. Oh, like that. Is it like that? Checkin.cool/Abhijit. Do you have .cool? What is this? Let's raise our standards. Okay. So it is checkin.cool. I did not know that you had a TLD, top level domain .cool. Okay, ask anything about geopolitics, history, strategy. You have an archive. Okay, you have a model. You're gonna burn a lot of credits, a lot of tokens, my friend, if people start using it. You can use Grok 3, Mistral, Llama. Okay, 70 billion parameters. Gemini 2.5, DeepSeek, GPT 5.4. I think the biggest one they have, the latest one is 5.7, right? But you're gonna burn a lot of tokens, right? So okay, what? Let's ask this thing, right? What should I ask? I'm suddenly out of things to ask. What are Abhijit's views on the Iran war? Let's see. Reading top episodes. Iran sees itself as an ancient great civilization and empire, historically expanding westwards, never towards India. Yeah. That's exactly what I say. Iran is in a dominant regional position and has achieved a strategic victory. Yeah, it's that's exactly what I say, isn't it? That's exactly my viewpoint. It has achieved a strategic victory. They have forced the Americans into a stalemate. The US and Israel assassinated figures like Qasem Soleimani, and so on and so forth. Okay, Iran's strategy, religiously motivated, decentralized mosaic warfare. Oh, it's got my latest episodes. It has ingested my latest episodes. The war's duration has surprised some who underestimated the capacity, and so on. Diego Garcia. So it has ingested my latest episodes, it looks like. Outstanding, brilliant, very nice. Okay, I'll check it out. Very cool thing you've done. Very cool. So I suppose you make it ingest the transcripts of past episodes, and the more you make it ingest, the better it gets at understanding. Very interesting. Outstanding, brilliant. Love it. Love it. Love it. Cool. Thank you for sharing this, and thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate that. Arnav, you're awesome. Okay. Aries Manticore says, for you think increasing the seats by delimitation would actually change the resource incentives and increase people to people representation. Shitty system, I think, but it's an improvement. But is it an improvement or demerit? I haven't thought about it. I haven't pondered this delimitation. I think, see, delimitation is about having representation where you need to have representation, right? If certain areas in certain parts of India, if the population has grown more, then you should have more seats there. That's, see, the basic thing in democracy is you have representation based on population, right? Democracy is about rule of the majority. It's as simple as that. It's not about the rule of the minority or the rule of the fringe. So whichever states or whichever territories you have will have larger populations, you need to have more Lok Sabha or whatever seats from there. And all seats, parliamentary seats, should have roughly the same number of people, people voting for it, roughly. So it is important to do the process of delimitation from time to time. You can't have a system that's based in 1970, right? Or 71 or whatever it is. That's a long time ago. That's a half century plus ago. So you need to do this process maybe once in a decade, once in 20, at least once in a quarter century. So that is important, and I think it's good in a democratic system, in a parliamentary democracy system. You need that for sure. Is it an improvement? I think somewhat of an improvement in overall a pretty not so good system. Yeah. Overall, I think it needs to happen. Yeah. It will be more representative that way. Okay. Rajat says, thanks for decolonizing many Indians. Thanks. Well, you're very welcome. Very welcome. I'm glad that Indians are being decolonized as a result of what I do. That would give me the greatest of pleasure. Thank you so much. Chetan says, why is there no left in Pakistan and Bangladesh? Why is it only a curse that has been imposed upon India? Why are there no left parties in Pakistan and Bangladesh? Maybe there is something to do. Maybe it has something to do with their culture, which is different from ours, right? Bangladesh and Pakistan, their culture is different from ours. They are the same people as us, same ethnicity, same blood, but their culture is very different from ours. And maybe there is something about their culture that doesn't tolerate ideologies that have the characteristics of the left. I don't know. Maybe it's that. I've not thought about it, but maybe it's the case. The left is more liberal, right, than the conservative right or something. Well, I think in Pakistan and Bangladesh, they don't tolerate any liberal values or liberal opinions. Yeah. So that's why maybe that's why it doesn't work there. Maybe that's why it doesn't exist there. Vinod Vaibhav says, census in 2027. How effective will the data be? Are we taking correct? But many people feel and say real Hindus are 65%. If we go 10% less in the next decade, then what? What next? I have no idea whether the census will be done properly or not. I hope it will be done properly. That's what one hopes, right? And I'm sure the government will try its best to do it properly. The problem we have is it's a known fact, we have millions of Bangladeshis in India. Millions of Bangladeshis, tens of millions of Bangladeshis in India. If you go to any large city in India, you will see them all over the place. And they have kind of, infiltrated the population thoroughly. They're now part of the landscape. Everyone knows who's a Bangladeshi, who's not. And nothing is being done about that. And they even have official documentation, official documents, Aadhaar cards, and God knows what else. Maybe even in Indian passports, possibly now. Maybe, possibly. I don't know. But definitely other cards they have. So if you have an Aadhaar card, how difficult is it to get the other documentation and then become an actual Indian citizen because the official documents are there? And if that is the case, then will your census not be completely skewed? Of course, there's the SIT or whatever that they do, but I don't know how accurate it's going to be. It's going to be done by bureaucrats, right? So I don't know. I don't know. Some people say in the real Hindu population of India is 65%. It's possible. Yeah. In the last census, which was what, 2011, I don't know what the Hindu population of India was. I'm sure it has decreased. In India, Hinduism is the fastest declining religion, I think. Yeah. So I'm sure it has decreased. I don't know if it's 65%, but it will have decreased from the last time. And there's plenty of people who convert to foreign religions who still claim to be Hindu on paper. So the actual percentage will be even lower than that. So I don't know. If we go 10% less in the next decade, then what? What next? Well, if it continues like this, thanks to the visionary leadership of our government, they have no idea. Maybe in 100 years, you won't have any Hindus left. Who knows? Rashikuddin says, if geopolitics is just applied history, is the current multipolar shift actually a return to the natural equilibrium of the ancient world? Geopolitics is not necessarily applied history. To understand geopolitics, you have to understand history. But geopolitics, what drives, what is the force? What is it that drives geopolitics? What is it that drives geopolitical events? It's not history that drives. Okay, historical reasons are there for things to happen, but it is all about energy and power. So geopolitical events are actual physical events. A war is a physical event. So there's politics and there's physical events. And that is driven by material factors. It's driven by the greed for resources. It's driven by the greed for power. Right? So that's how geopolitics actually operates. Geopolitics is all about domination. It's all about power. It's all about resources. And most geopolitical changes happen through warfare. So that is what geopolitics is. It's the pursuit of power and resources at the global scale or large regional scales. That's what geopolitics is. Otherwise, if you go to sub-regional scales, you're talking about local politics. Okay? So that's what geopolitics is. Now, the current multipolar shift. Are we seeing a multipolar shift? Are we really? We are seeing a shift towards bipolarity. The world is fragmenting into two blocks. From India's perspective, our politicians, our people, they keep on saying multipolarity. Is India really a pole? How many poles do we have? We have blocks, not poles. One is the American-led Western bloc, the United States and its vassals, and Japan and South Korea and Australia are part of the West from this political perspective, geopolitical perspective. And then there is an Eastern bloc, which seeks to put forth an alternative system to the American-led system, which is Russia and China and Iran and North Korea. These four together, they are a viable, strong power. Of course, power is never shared, so there's going to be something there. And then there's nations like India, which are not very powerful, but not small either. But are we a major pole? We're not a major pole. So we are seeing a shift to a bipolar world actually right now. And these are processes that are constantly in motion. Constantly in motion. There's no equilibrium. There is no equilibrium. There seems to be equilibrium for some time if things are kind of stable for a while. But even in that situation, there is always some shifting of the balance of power. Right? So if you take a snapshot, it looks like equilibrium because the map looks the same. But things keep changing. The balance of power keeps changing. Like what we've seen in the Persian Gulf region. The balance of power has changed there. Suddenly, there's a new hegemon potentially there, Iran. So there is no return to anything. It's just a continuation of the same forces. The forces that drive the world today are the same forces that drove the world 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. And the process that was set in motion then, 5,000 years ago, it's still in process today. Cause and effect. There's a whole causal chain that connects what's happening now to what happened 5,000, 6,000 years ago. It's all connected. Okay, Pranay Kumar says, employees are just cogs in a machine. Will the entire system collapse if we remove a few cogs from this massive, modern, abstracted industrial machinery? It depends. See, every industry, an industry is a domain. You have economies, which are systems. You have interconnected economies. You have a global economy. But if you look at a national economy, it's an interconnected system with multiple industries and sectors. And within these industries and sectors, you have corporations and companies. Now, employees, they belong within corporations and companies. And within a company or a corporation, the employees are, you are right, cogs in a machine. So the question is, will the entire system collapse if we remove a few cogs from this massive thing? Well, let's say a company has, let's say, 1,000 employees, and let's say you remove 50. It could cause a problem of some kind, but maybe they have 50 people on the bench that put them into operation. So it depends how fault tolerant your company is and how fault tolerant your system is. Right? So if your system is fragile, then removing a few cogs will collapse the whole thing, will shatter the whole thing. But if your system is resilient and fault tolerant, removing cogs sometimes may actually strengthen it. So it depends on the system. It depends on the kind of company, kind of corporation it is, the kind of industry it is in, and the kind of economy it is a part of. It all depends on these things. Some economies, some domains, some sectors are fragile, and they can't withstand shocks. Some can. It depends. Pradeep Kumar Roy says, in a recent video, KHAN sir said, India poor nahi hai, poor rakha gaya hai for political benefits. Your views? See, collectively, India has a lot of money collectively. As a macroscopic entity, India has a lot of money. So I kind of agree with him to a certain extent about this. India poor nahi hai, poor rakha gaya hai. India isn't really a poor nation. We have been kept poor. By whom? Well, that's the big question, isn't it? By whom? Maybe by a certain class of people. So I kind of agree with him, actually. Yeah. For political benefits, that kind of tells you which class of people it is. Yeah. I, at least to a certain extent, agree with him. Abhay Singh says, what the heck is happening in Russia? Reports said that new Ukrainian interceptors are completely outmatching the Geran 2. Russians are getting mowed down. I don't know. I have not paid attention to Russia for a few days. I don't know what's happening there. Reports where? So I'm not aware of this. We can look at the news if you like. Giran 2. Giran 2. So this is the Russian version of the Iranian Shahed 136. Okay, so what you're saying is that if you see the news, what do we get? News. Let us see. Okay, I don't see anything here, but maybe you will see such reports on social media or Telegram or whatever. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Look, drone warfare is a game of cat and mouse. It's a constantly evolving field. Every few weeks, something new happens in drone warfare. You find a way to outmaneuver your opponent. So if you are doing counter drone warfare, you evolve something new, then it makes drones, attacking drones useless. and then the attacker will come up with some new innovation which will make your defenses useless. And it's a cat and mouse game. It's constantly evolving. So that's what you see. That's been one of the defining characteristics of the Ukraine war, right? There's been a lot of you know warfare has evolved the past 4 years. It's evolved a lot. There's been a lot of change, and it's in the battlefield that you will see all the innovations and all the changes happening. So yeah, maybe so, but I've not seen any news about this. What you're saying, but maybe it's happening. Yeah, sure. Okay, Subit says, can't we use nuclear power in oil ship to reduce shipping cost? How much does a nuclear reactor cost? It costs way more than your ship. It costs way more than your ship. Nuclear reactors, their cost is in the billions of dollars. A super tanker may cost $200 million perhaps. You have the engine that's like 5 times, 7, 8 times the price of the entire ship. Doesn't work, right? So, Pratardana says, Sumerian texts 2500 BC, Aratha is a place from which lapis lazuli comes. Lord of Aratha's name sounds Sanskrit on Wikipedia. Lapis source was Badakhshan. Okay. So I'm not aware of this, but I can I can throw some kind of context on this from a different angle. I'm not sure if you have heard me speak about this, because I've spoken about this in the past. There is this late Vedic text called the Bodhayana Shrotta Sutra. And it tells the story of a king called Amavasu. And it records that Amavasu went westwards, and his people are the Gandhara, the Parshva, and the Aratha. Okay? So the Gandhara, we know it's Afghanistan, present day Afghanistan. Parshva, we know it's Persia. Who's Aratha is the question. And some speculation is that maybe it's Armenia. And there's a mountain there called Mount Masis, which sounds like name from Amasu, something like that, Amavasu kind of name. So maybe there's a connection there. Maybe it's just entirely coincidental. But Gandhara and Parshu we know. But Aratha is the question mark. So Badakhshan. There is the Khorasan region, Swarasthana region, right? Badakhshan. Roughly, let me see. Where is Badakhshan? Badakhshan. Tajikistan, right? So yeah, it's kind of the Khorasan region. Kind of. And interestingly enough, the name Khorasan, where does it come from? It comes from the name Swarasthana. Swarasthana. You see, Swarasthana. Swara means the sun. It also means golden in Sanskrit. Swarasthana means the place where the sun rises, just the place of the sun. Kind of like Saurashtra, right? Swarasthana, which became Khorasan. So, yeah. Interesting. Okay. Rohit says, why across history civilizations have been outcompeted by imperialists, and even China, who today is the potential next power, is imperialist by policy? Why is it so? Because civilizations often become soft, too civilized. Oftentimes you have these cycles where civilizations become too focused on culture and learning and arts and all those things, creating great monuments, beautiful monuments, works of great art and great beauty, and composing poetry and great literature and all that. And they completely forget that you also have to hold the sword. You will see in India, ancient India, not ancient, I mean recent India, you have kings who there were certain kings in India who all they did was pray all day. Their physicality was no longer physical as a king. One felt like telling them, if you see the photographs, "Oh king, maybe your hands will know their strength better if they grasp your sword." So this is what happens often in civilizations. You completely forget that you have to be concerned about your safety, and you have to account for the possibility of barbarians and wolves coming howling at your gates. That's what happens. You get too soft, and then barbarians take over, and then they build empires, and eventually empires collapse, and maybe civilizations rise again, or maybe they disappear. Depends. All right. Pradeep Kumar Roy says, is Israel our friend or enemy? Neither friend nor enemy. Okay. There are no friends or enemies in geopolitics. There are no friends in geopolitics. There are no enemies in geopolitics. There are temporary, you could say, allies or quasi allies, and you have temporary adversaries. And if things change, the roles can be interchanged. So there are no permanent friends, there are no permanent adversaries, and there are no real friends in geopolitics. Geopolitics is motivated only by self-interest. All right. Every nation has its own interests, and its interests determine its policies and its actions and its behavior. So you have no friends, no enemies in geopolitics. Very diplomatic answer to your question. Vaibhav says, Vaibhav says, my college says we should full support Israel. Fantastic. Full support, sir. Full support. Shivendra has gifted a membership of the channel. Thank you so much, Shivendra, and on behalf of the person who received it. It's very kind of you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay, Trishul decapitates Mlecha says, have you seen Durandar 2? Your best movie recommendations. I saw Durandar 2 less than a week ago. Excellent movie, excellent. I mean, imagine a movie that's more than 4 hours long. It's like watching the Ask Abhijit show, right? So a movie that's more than 4 hours long and you don't get bored. Yeah, that's incredible achievement. Very good movie, very nice movie, great acting by everyone, very entertaining, very nice background track. The songs and the music that was nice. A nice sense of humor in the movie. Good action, kind of realistic action, not like the Bollywood dichyan thing, right? And patriotic movie. Good to see that too. So overall, I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. It was great fun. Great fun watching a good Hindi movie for a change. I mean, I had a policy of no longer watching any Bollywood movie. I suppose this is not a Bollywood movie, it's a Hindi movie, which is good. And yeah, it was fun. So I hope that you'll have more high quality movies being produced in India in the future. I still am going to continue my policy of not watching Bollywood movies, but if something really good comes up, I will be happy to watch it. Best movie recommendations, I should make a separate video about that, because right now I will not remember movies because I've seen so many great movies. I'm a great movie buff. But the movies I'll recommend are going to be older movies. There's nothing good today. So maybe I should do a separate video about that, not in this live stream, because I'll miss something which should be there in the list. Yeah, so. Okay, ABH656 says, what are your thoughts on Nobel and Oscars? You mean the Nobel Prize and the Oscars? I feel all these awards are completely controlled by the US, and they have deliberately hyped it and they give it to their people. See, Oscar awards, Grammy awards, the Nobel Prize, these awards, they're not given on the basis of merit. If the awards were given, if the Nobel Prize was given on the basis of merit, then why did ECG Sudarshan never receive the Nobel Prize? ECG Sudarshan, one of the greatest theoretical physicists of all time. And other people were given the Nobel Prize for work that he did. The electroweak theory, Glashow, Salam, Weinberg, they received the Nobel Prize for that. They received the Nobel Prize for work based on the work of ECG Sudarshan, which he had done as a graduate student. Let me show you what he looked like. ECG Sudarshan. ECG Sudarshan. He has passed away, unfortunately. Indian American theoretical physicist. So this gentleman should have received three separate Nobel Prizes for the work that he did. But the Nobel Committee refused to give him a Nobel Prize. Why is that? I wonder. Let's see his Wikipedia page to see whether we can find some clues about it. Let's see. Innakal Chandi George Sudarshan was born in Palom, Kottayam, Travancore, British India. He was raised in a Syrian Christian family, but later left Christianity and reconverted to Hinduism. Maybe there is a clue there. He was born in a Syrian Christian family, but he reverted to the religion of his ancestors. Maybe there's a clue there. So you see, this man should have won 3 Nobel Prizes. There are other cases. The Bose-Einstein statistics are named after whom? Jagdish Chandra Bose, or which Bose was it? Bose-Einstein. Okay. Bose-Einstein statistics. Not Jagdish Chandra Bose, it was Satyendranath Bose. So it was developed by Satyendranath Bose, not Albert Einstein. He sent this paper that he had written to Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, all he did was he translated it in German and he submitted it to the Annalen der Physik with his recommendation. And they published it as the Bose-Einstein statistics. Einstein simply translated it into German so that it could be submitted to the journal. And Einstein, who was one of the great physicists, he recommended that it be published. And Einstein never said his name should be put on that. But today, Einstein's name is put on that. So you will see these stories all the time. Yeah. So the Nobel Prize, the Oscars, the Grammys, yeah, it's all Eurocentric and American centric. Okay. Hardik Joshi says Pakistan will get Iran's uranium, so it comes across as peacemaker, but will resupply back to Iran because Pakistan is capable of playing this game. Iran will never give even a gram of uranium to Pakistan. If they do it, it will only be if they have completely been defeated and they've lost it all. It will not happen. Okay? Pakistan can play this game only if Iran gives it to them, right? Is Iran stupid or what? Iran is not stupid. Iran is a sensible nation. Iran considers Pakistan to be an adversary. All right? Okay. 24 Bharat says Durandar exposed the ISI Mossad link. I don't believe Israel dragged the US. It's just into the war. It's just an excuse. Iran was always on the agenda, like vesicular. What is this? What is that? VESYIQLYAF. I have no idea what it means. Early to say US is Israeli vassal. See, Durandar is a movie. It's not a documentary. Durandar, it's a work that's officially a work of fiction. As a filmmaker, you take creative liberties. If you show something in a movie, it doesn't mean it actually happened. It also doesn't mean it did not happen. But you can't say that I watched the movie and it proves everything. It's a fiction movie. It's like saying that I know everything about the Mahabharata because I watched 2-3 serials. You can't learn history from a TV serial. Right? So Durandar, maybe the objective was to expose something that actually exists. Okay, I'm not saying it may not exist. But please understand that you can't use a movie as the basis of your understanding of the world. Is there an ISI Mossad link? Well, could be. I don't know, obviously. I am not in ISI, I'm not in Mossad. So I don't know. But could there be a link? Well, anything is possible, I suppose. That's what I can say. And of course, when Asim Munir was in Washington, D.C. for one of his meetings with Trump, then the local embassy or consulate of Pakistan had hosted him for a dinner. They had organized a dinner in his honor. And allegedly, there was an Israeli military presence there. Maybe some officer or officers. Such reports have emerged. So it's possible. It's entirely possible. You don't believe Israel dragged the US into the war? It's just an excuse. Maybe it's an excuse. Maybe it's an excuse. Iran was always in the agenda and so on. Early to say US is Israeli vassal? Maybe it's early to say. Shivendra says, why did Modi go to Israel before the war? Why didn't India send US warships to deter the US? We have important relationships on both sides of the Hormuz. Why did Modi go to Iran before the war? Only Mr. Modi can answer the question. I have no idea. I don't know. It was like the day Mr. Modi returns to India, the next day the Israelis attack Iran, right? Was it a coincidence? Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe. But I have no idea why. Maybe Mr. Modi had no idea this war was going to happen. It's possible. And Mr. Modi went there to strengthen the relationship between the two countries. The India-Israel relationship is an important relationship for us. It's a close relationship. It's a strategic relationship. And it's always good to make such relationships even stronger. So maybe that's why he went there. And maybe the war happened just as a coincidence. Maybe Israel planned it that way. I have no idea. So that's the first part of your question. Why didn't India send warships to deter the US? It's like saying, why did my house cat not go and try to deter the tiger that's sitting outside? That's all. We have important relationships on both sides of the Hormuz. I agree. We have an important relationship with Iran. We have important relationships with the Gulf countries. But asking India to send warships to deter the US is like asking my house cat to go and deter a tiger. It doesn't work. Neural Scout says, feeling anxious about AI's threat to India's IT sector. Given that education system primarily rewards academic intelligence, that AI will sooner surpass your views. I promise you, my friends, AI has surpassed academic intelligence. We don't have AGI yet, artificial general intelligence, as far as I know. I haven't seen any AI system that is an AGI system. Maybe Anthropic's Mythos allegedly could be close to AGI. But even if you take the regular AI systems that are out there today, they can easily, they can do a far better job than your teachers in teaching you anything in the world, teaching you way better than your teachers. And forget about teaching. AI systems, AI agents, agentic AI can do, it can do a lot of stuff that, regular actual workers do, IT workers, IT workers. So right now, the IT sector isn't losing a lot of jobs because AI isn't there yet. But AI, so today what's happening is that, let's say a software company has 1,000 employees. Now they're all adopting AI. And those employees are becoming more productive because they use AI systems, AI agents and all that. But eventually, those agents are going to replace them. Right now, the agents, they need babysitting. If you babysit them, they're going to be way more productive than in 1 hour than a human being can be productive in 8 hours. I promise you that. The quantity of code that they can churn out, whether it's good or not is a different question, but it works. Hard to maintain, possibly. That's a different conversation. It's a different debate. But the productivity rates have gone way high up because AI employees are now babysitting AI agents, because IT employees are babysitting AI agents. But eventually, the agents are going to replace the employees. That time is going to come, or maybe not. Or if the AI companies decide not to release new frontier models, like they allegedly are not releasing Mythos, then maybe we are stuck at the ceiling, and then the IT sector is possibly fine. It all depends on how the AI companies, what their policies are going to be like. If they do release new frontier models, then AI will gobble up the Indian IT industry. The Indian IT industry doesn't stand a chance against AI if new frontier models are kept on being released. And forget about Anthropic and Chat GPT, OpenAI, and all that. You have open source models that are now very close to the frontier models. So even if Anthropic doesn't release Mythos, you're going to have open source models that will eventually be at the same level as Mythos. Then what do you do? And you can run that on a powerful computer system with sufficient GPU power and all that. You can do that. Then what happens? Then the IT sector is fried. It's cooked. So I am of the opinion it's just a matter of time, because before, all you need to run an IT company is a group of managers who know how to handle agentic AI systems. And you don't need employees. Yeah. You will need managers at different levels. Okay. Pradeep Kumar Roy says, we used to have goat sacrifice during Kali Puja. Now it has stopped due to some government order. She is our Kuldevi. We Why worship even is my question. Just worship different gods. Freemasons also do the same on Sabbath, I believe. The government has no business and no right interfering in religious matters. And these are traditions that go back thousands of years. That's unacceptable. That's just wrong. That's Hindu phobic. And some Hindus will say that's horrible that you're killing goats. That is the beauty of Hinduism. We have so many different traditions and paths within our religion. So the government has stopped it. So here you have an example of what I say, that India is a Hindu phobic apartheid state. The apartheid is directed at Hindus. Is if you practice a foreign religion, you are allowed to do whatever you want. No one's going to stop you. But if you're a Hindu, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't manage your temples, you can't sacrifice animals. But if you practice foreign religions, yeah, you can sacrifice animals in large numbers. My point is, why don't you treat everybody the same? Either stop everyone from sacrificing animals, or allow everyone to sacrifice animals. I don't get it, really. India is, what can I say? Abhay Singh says, I read somewhere that India is going to be able to make far more warheads now because of fast breeder reactors. Is that why we didn't accept IAEA inspections in FBRs? So the IAEA is the International Atomic Energy Agency, or whatever. Okay. My point is, if you are a sovereign nation, why do you have to accept anyone coming from abroad to inspect your things? Who the hell are they to come from another country to inspect what I'm doing? Why should we accept that? Are we under some obligation that the foreign sahib will come and inspect what we are doing? Don't we have any self-respect? Of course, if we have an agreement with a country like the US, a nuclear deal or something, nuclear agreement, the 123 agreement or something we had in the 2000s, then maybe as part of that agreement, some of the reactors had to be open for inspection if we wanted the Americans to invest in nuclear energy in India or whatever. It never happened. Never happened. So my point is, as a sovereign nation, why do we need to allow any foreign inspector? First of all. Secondly, fast breeder reactors. They do produce plutonium-239. They do. But that's to be used in the third stage. No, sorry. The pressurized heavy water reactors of the first stage, they produce plutonium, and then it is used in the second stage, and so on and so forth, right? So the fast breeder reactors, they will produce more plutonium, and they'll also produce uranium-233. Now this plutonium that is being produced, that's fun, because you can use that in nuclear weapons, and you need way less plutonium compared to uranium. to have a nuclear detonation. So that is actually true. Yeah, the fast breeder reactors do produce plutonium 239. Yeah. Okay. Vishnu Vardhan M says, is Columbus Jewish? Well, he's dead. You see, there is this museum. There's a museum in, I think it's in Santo Domingo, in the Dominican Republic. And in this museum, there are two skulls of Christopher Columbus. One from when he was a boy, and one from when he was a man. Yes. Was he Jewish? I have no idea. I have not studied whether he was Jewish or not. But you should visit the museum in Santo Domingo. Abhiman Gopinath says, Israel controls Middle East through intel behalf of US for petrodollars. Israel loves the US. Yeah, could be so. Could be so. Could be so. Sankar Chilikuri says, Chilukuri says, China better foreign policy due to merit mandarins. Overall, yes. Overall, yes. China is a nation that believes in merit, right? And their foreign policy officials are specialists and experts in the domain. They are not political appointees. There is political appointments also, of course, but they will appoint people politically. They only appoint those who are actually qualified for the role, not in terms of some paper degree, but they actually have the know-how, the wherewithal to do a great job. That's the qualification I seek. The skills is the qualification, not your goddamn paper degree. That's not a qualification. So the Chinese overall are better than us in everything, especially in the government level. Godliness says it seems the elected leadership, if in Iran, is ready for some kind of compromise. Basically, they're ready to be the leading good boy in the region, but then there is IRGC, Iran controlled Islamist sword. So, if you look at the tweet by the foreign minister of Iran, Sayed Abbas Araghchi, okay, which he put out yesterday evening, okay, well, he did say, he said this: in line with the ceasefire in Lebanon, the passage for all commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open for the remaining period of the ceasefire on the coordinated route as already announced by Ports and Maritime Organization of the Islamic Republic of Iran. So he tweeted this yesterday, 6:15 p.m. 2 hours later, you have this tweet from the Tasnim news agency, which is the official news agency in Iran. It was in Persian, which means it was for the people of Persia. It said that bad and incomplete tweet by Araghchi, an incomplete ambiguity creation regarding the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, and so on. So, complete, direct, immediate criticism of the foreign minister of Iran. And then the foreign minister of Iran stays quiet. So, looks like there is something brewing within the government of Iran. I don't know. Is there going to be a coup? Is there going to be some kind of purge? I don't know. But understand one thing: who really runs the show in Iran? Who really rules Iran? It's not the elected government who rules the country. It's the IRGC and the inner circle of the Shia clerics who actually wield the power in Iran. It's not the government, official government. The president of Iran is maybe number 4, number 5 in the pecking order, okay? Understand how Iran actually works. Okay, Piyush Sinha says, after seeing Russia's Air Force performance in the Ukraine war, should India consider buying Sukhoi 57 jets, or should we go with French jets? The Russians haven't really used their Air Force in Ukraine. They've used drones and missiles. Where have they used the Air Force? They've used older aircraft, Sukhoi 27s, or I don't know, Sukhoi whatever. They've hardly used their air force at all, the Russians. Have they even used the Sukhoi 57? I mean, there are Western media reports that said that Sukhoi 57s have been used. I don't trust the Western media. The same way I don't trust any media anywhere, because they're all liars, potentially. Potentially, they're all liars. Potentially, they're all on someone's allegedly, potentially, hypothetically payroll. And media is an industry, right? It's not. So the point is, we don't really know um, how much of uh, an appearance the Russian Air Force has actually made in the Ukraine war. Hardly anything at all. Look, the Sukhoi 57 may not be the best stealth fighter in the world, okay? It may not. Maybe it's not the best in the world. But the Russians are offering us full source code, full manufacturing in India, not assembly, but manufacturing. What else do you want? Do it. Maybe it's just as good as the Rafale. Maybe it's slightly worse. So what? You have your own thing. You're making it yourself. Then improve it. We have our engineers. We have our technicians. We have our designers. We can slowly start improving the aircraft. Right? But the French aren't giving us the source code. They're being pricey. They say, we want even more French francs. No, we don't have francs anymore, right? Euros. So, if the French are showing that attitude, we should buy the Sukhoi 57, in my opinion. Fast Snail says, I read that Turkey could be the next target for Israel. What's Turkey's relation with Iran? Could Turkey be a better mediator instead of Pakistan, since it's a NATO ally? Pakistan is a major non-NATO ally of the US. And more importantly, Pakistan is in the pocket of the US. Turkey is kind of a problem. Right? And Pakistan is not some neutral mediator. It's in America's pocket. Turkey is less in America's pocket. So Pakistan was the better thing for them. See, Pakistan was a place. It's not. Have you heard that Pakistan is renowned for diplomacy or negotiations or whatever? No, it was simply a convenient go-between for the Americans. That's what Pakistan was. Now, Turkey could be the next target for Israel. That's speculation. I don't know. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. I have no idea. Israel doesn't have the best relationship with Turkey. Israel, and they have Israel and Turkey aren't really far away from each other, right? And they have you could say overlap of areas of interest, zones of interest, fields of interest. So if you see here, this is obviously Israel, and not far away you have Turkey. You have Turkish occupied Cyprus, which is northern Cyprus. And the Israelis, their area of interest is this whole region, West Asia region. Syria, they have this terrorist who rules Syria, who's an American asset, right? Terrorist, Al-Julani. So if he's an American asset, he's also an Israeli asset. And Syria and Turkey, they have a shared border. And Turkey has kind of encroached upon some parts of Syria, which obviously, if Syria is now an Israeli asset, Israel won't like. So there are all these games that are being played over here. And Turkey obviously has expansionist ambitions. Allegedly, Israel also has that. So we are both expansionists, that you will collide somewhere. And other things as well, right? But obviously, Israel and Turkey are allies in one thing, that is in Nagorno-Karabakh, in their support for Azerbaijan over Armenia. So it's complicated. 24 Bharat says, Annie Besant, British agent or part of freedom struggle? I have no idea. No idea whatsoever. I don't know. I've heard of her. I know that she was of Irish origin or something. I don't know her life story. I don't know what role she played in our so-called freedom struggle. I have no idea about what she did. I know that there are places named after her. If you go to Chennai, there's this place called Besant Nagar. Maybe it's named after her. And what else could be? But yeah, I don't know. I don't know her story. So unfortunately, I can't answer your question. I have no idea. This has never interested me. Why would I waste my time reading about these foreigners who came to India to help us for our freedom, the so-called freedom, non-violent freedom struggle? Why will I waste my time reading that? So that's why I've never bothered to read these things. Rajat says, not able to understand if Astra series missiles are already in roadmap again. We are buying R-37M, and not a single MK-1A has been delivered yet by HAL. Are you talking about the Tejas MK-1A? See, how will HAL deliver an aircraft when you don't have jet engines? Maybe that's an impediment. Maybe that's a roadblock. I'm just guessing. Okay, I don't know really I don't actually know what's happening there. I don't look into defense matters. I look into geopolitics. Geopolitics and defense are completely separate domains, by the way. Okay, Indians, listen, audience. Listen, audience. Let me explain something. Geopolitics and defense are completely separate domains. If you are somebody who understands geopolitics, it doesn't necessarily mean that you understand defense. You may, but there's no guarantee that you will. And if you are a defense expert, I promise you there is no guarantee that you will understand geopolitics. So I don't know. Astra series missiles are there in roadmap or whatever. I have no idea what's happening there. R-37M is the Russian missile, obviously. Air-to-air missile, yes, of course. So are we buying that? If the Astra is so good, like I hear, then why are we buying foreign systems? I have no idea. We allegedly have this alleged import lobby that seeks to import everything because of alleged whatever reasons. Maybe it's allegedly true. Allegedly. Who knows? And HAL, is it because because the Americans aren't delivering those General Electric engines? Or is it because HAL is not doing a good job? I have no idea. But overall, things seem to be not going very well. Okay. Pradeep Kumar Roy says, Abhisha Mishra has asked a history question. Why didn't Kaiser Wilhelm II return to Germany after the rise of Hitler? Kaiser Wilhelm II, I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember right now. Yeah, I don't remember that story. And it's not. So Kaiser Wilhelm II was the relative of the British royal family, right? And what was the whole deal? I don't remember right now, unfortunately. Very sorry. Very sorry. See, I don't remember everything in the world. Sorry. Buryat Stalin says, is it correct to say that warmer regions like Africa, China, and India support larger populations than colder places like Canada and Russia, as humans originate in tropical areas? No, not because of that. It's because warmer regions can support larger populations because warmer regions have flowing water, and warmer regions have more forests and more rivers, sometimes deserts, of course. But many parts of the tropical world are full of forests and rivers and river valleys. When you have forests and rivers, you're going to have very lush vegetation. You're going to have a rich, fertile soil that is conducive for agriculture, or just forests where you get enough food to eat. So that's why, and when you have a place that where the water doesn't freeze, it means you don't have those freezing temperatures that kill old people and weak people, which means old people and weak people also thrive in warmer places. So these are the reasons why warmer parts of the world typically support larger populations. But you will have harder people coming from colder places because cold parts of the world force you to be hard and tough. The winter is a killer. Do you know that? Every winter, a whole bunch of old people die in the cold parts of the world. Not anymore because today we have electricity and all that. But historically, every winter a bunch of elderly people would die and a bunch of sick people would die. The winter would just claim them. You can't survive the cold. The cold is too bitter. But you don't have the situation in warm parts of the world. So even old people survive. And so because of these reasons, warmer regions typically support larger populations than colder regions. Godliness says, very soon holy Chardham Yatra, Kedar, Badri, Gangotri, Yamunotri are commencing. These yatras represent our history, devotion, and courage. Also, one request: kindly don't treat them as picnic spots. I agree. These are not picnic spots. These are pilgrimage sites, not picnic spots. You want to go for a picnic? Go somewhere else. I agree with you. Yes. Pradeep Kumar Roy says about Jatinga and mass bird suicide phenomenon. What is a Jatinga? I haven't heard of this. I've heard of the lemmings, but lemmings aren't birds. Lemmings are rodents. So lemmings are this rodent that likes to. For some reason, they jump off cliffs. Lemmings are rodents, and they jump off cliffs for some reason. Yeah, you will have the. See this sort of thing. Yeah, so I've heard about lemmings doing that. Mass bird suicide. I am not aware of this. What is a Jatinga? Let me see. Jating. What's a Jatinga? Jatinga is a village on a ridge in Assam's Dima Hasao district in India, famous for the mysterious alleged mass bird suicides that occur between August and November, particularly on foggy, moonless nights. Located about 9 kilometers from Haflong, the scenic spot attracts visitors with its often misunderstood bird mystery and is a popular destination for bird watching. Migratory birds like kingfishers, drongos, and tiger bitterns fly towards lamps and torches at night, leading to disorientation and subsequent fatalities. This event, sometimes termed the Valley of Death for birds, often results in the birds being killed by locals or dying from crashes, although this practice is now banned. Okay, looks like there is some kind of actual natural explanation or whatever explanation for this. The birds aren't committing suicide, they're actually flying in the night and they get disoriented or whatever. They fly towards lights and then they hit whatever, you know, they hit posts or something like that, lamps, whatever. Maybe humans are inducing this. I don't know the story, but okay. I wasn't aware of this. Okay, Godliness says, who will be left to live in this scorching heat by 2047? Temperatures in India are damaging the fertile soil. We don't have the natural resources or the climate to survive, forget being developed. Look, have you been to the Gulf, West Asia? Have you been to the Gulf, for example, the UAE? The weather there is far worse than in India. The temperatures are, I suppose, even higher than in India, and it's a very dry, arid place, very little humidity, and people do well there. People flock to Dubai, right, to settle down in Dubai. Why is that? Because if you're a developed country, everything is fine, right? So if India gets its act together, even if global warming happens and temperatures rise, the whole country can be air conditioned, like the UAE is. It'll be a different challenge, obviously. I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's possible to have a great life, even with very high temperatures. In the summers, you're going to have high temperatures, and you have global warming that's happening, and it seems to be definitely causing higher temperatures to occur. So let's be optimistic. We will be developed. We will have great leadership in India. We will do all the reforms we need to do, and we will be super developed by 2047. Kratos Aryavartavasi says, how did we completely lose the Vedic heartland of Sindhu, Saraswati, and Gandhara, but older heartland of UP, Ayodhya, and Ganga remained and retained ancestral culture? Very simple. The Vedic heartland, it's the Sapta Sindhu region, the Saraswati Sindhu region. Gandhara is not exactly Vedic heartland. Gandhara is north of the Vedic heartland. But there is this persistent Aryan invasion myth that says that, Aryans came from the north or whatever. Anyhow, so how did we lose that? It's because that's where the Turks first invaded India. What was northwest India? It was Cambodia Desh, which actually is part of Central Asia now. But that was a Mahajanapada, wasn't it? Cambodia Desh. And they were the first to fall to the Turks. Then Gandhar was the next to fall to the Turks. And that's how we lost those parts of India. So if you go to Gandhar today, the people Well, they don't practice Indian culture anymore. They did. They were our own people, but things changed. It's because these are the oldest, the parts of India that have been occupied by foreigners the longest. That's why. Kratos Aryavartavasi says, how ironic that India supports Israel in annexing Palestine. The land's name is based on the Philistines, who were Aryan Indo-European clans migrating from Mycenaean Greece. So I don't know about the origin of the Philistines. The It was one of the peoples who lived there, the Judeans, the Philistines, and so on. Were they actually Indo-European or Aryan clan who migrated from Mycenaean Greece? I am not aware of that. Okay, let's find out. Let's ask the Google search engine. Were the Philistines Indo-European or Semitic in origin? Philistines were likely of Indo-European, Asian, Mycenaean origin, not Semitic, appearing as one of the sea peoples of the southern Levant. Oh, okay. So how do we know? DNA. Have we done the DNA analysis? Well, today, if you go to Israel, many Jewish people have R1A, which is obviously Indian origin, Asian origins. They are widely believed to have come from the Asian region and so on. Okay. I'll not go into the details, but okay, interesting. So the Philistines were Aryan, Indo-European. They came from Mycenaean Greece, the Asian region. And ironic. Ironic. Piyush Sinha says, in this geopolitical chessboard, whom do you think, which country played the right move? In Asia, in Africa, in Europe, in all the continents? It's not about who played the right move in the past. It's about who's playing the right moves right now. Who has played the right moves thus far? The Americans, who became a superpower from being just a colony, right? In the past 300 years, it's the Americans who have risen the most. In the past 50 years, the Chinese have done the best moves, made the best moves, right? Last 50 years, the Chinese, their rise has been outstanding. Last 300 years, the Americans. And the other countries, other parts of the world, it's all mostly mediocrity. Okay. 24 Bharat says, why is ID? What's ID? Indonesia. Why is Indonesia largely a failure? Weak economy, military, geopolitical irrelevance, zero soft power, cultural projection in traditional art, music, sport. They only have Bali. You're talking about Indonesia. Are they a failure? Well, okay, they don't have nuclear weapons. They have a large population for sure. Economy is okay. What's their GDP? Let's see the GDP. See, the GDP per capita will be higher than that of India. What's the GDP and GDP per capita of India and Indonesia? So India's GDP is 4.13 trillion and GDP per capita is 2.8 thousand. Indonesia's nominal GDP is 1.54 trillion and GDP per capita is like much higher than India, between 4.9 to 5.3, right? So overall, the people of Indonesia have a better quality of life than the average Indian person. Indonesia's GDP, it's 1.54 trillion. What's Indonesia's population? What's Indonesia's population? Let's see. See, the population is so much lower than India. I think Indonesia is doing a good job for itself, right? They have a much smaller population compared to India, less than 300 million. Their GDP is 1.54 trillion. That is very respectable. GDP per capita seems to be around $5,000, more than that, which is way higher than India. On these parameters and factors, they're doing great. What is India's soft power? I don't know what India's soft power is. India doesn't seem to have a great image globally. A lot of that is because of propaganda and misinformation, but whatever. Overall, traditional art and all, they have their own culture and art, which obviously originates in India, much of it. but they have their own art forms and dances and whatnot. Sport, they're pioneers. I mean, they're some of the best badminton players you'll find, the Indonesians. Music, they have their own music, which they like. You should check out Indonesian music on YouTube. I think Indonesia is doing okay overall, actually. It's not doing badly. I don't think it's doing poorly. Okay, Aditya Washimkar says track 1.5 or 2 talks with Pakistan, meaning and impact. Who is doing track 1.5 talks with Pakistan? Who? India. Is India doing that? Or is Iran doing that? Someone else doing that? See, if you could give some details and I can answer your question. Talks with Pakistan, but talks by who? By India? India is not talking to Pakistan. I know that for sure. Is it the Iran mediation, so-called mediation? Is that what you're asking about? That did not yield any results, right? Right now, we're in a state of war again. Trump is saying, I'm going to bomb again. I'm going to drop bombs. So, is that what you're asking? I'm not really sure. So, India certainly is not talking with Pakistan. Track 1.5, 2, 7, 83, whatever. No. Iran, those talks failed. Okay. The Eternal Witness says a 1400-year-old Mongolian inscription, Huis Tolgoi 1, written in the Brahmi script. How much did India's culture influence Mongolia? For example, adoption of polytheism. See, polytheism in Mongolia is indigenous. Mongolian polytheism did not come from India, even though it's very similar. See, the religion of Mongolia is called Tengrism in English. So it seems like it's the worship of one god called Tengri, but it's not the case. It's a polytheistic culture, religion. They have the sky father Tengri and the earth mother Umai. It's like our Vedic sky father Dyosh Pitru and the Vedic earth mother Prithvi Mata. Same thing. Same deities, same concepts. And then they have all kinds of other gods and goddesses, and they worship spirits, they worship nature, they worship the spirits of their ancestors, they worship trees, they worship mountains and rivers and whatnot. So it's very much like Indian religions, very much like Hinduism. How much so adoption of polytheism, that's completely indigenous in Mongolia. But of course, Indian culture did influence Mongolia indirectly through a proxy. The proxy was Tibet. And the old Brahmi inscription, it's a fact. So it tells you that long before Chinggis Khan, you had, an Indian influence in Mongolia. And before the Swayambhu script was invented, you had the Brahmi script. So the Mongol script, one of the Mongol scripts is called the Swayambhu script or the Swayambhu script. Their national symbol is called the Swayambhu symbol. What is the national symbol of Mongolia called? Swayambhu. 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 So yeah, there are deep, ancient connections between India and Mongolia. Prateep Kumar Roy says, do you think the DGISI in the end was Asim Munir? You mean the guy who was partying with the Israelis? The guy in Durandar, right? The guy who was partying with the Israelis in London. Was it Asim Munir? Who knows? It could be. Who knows? Is very possible, yes, very much. Or was it Faiz Hamid DGISI in the end? Faiz Hamid, the guy who was in Kabul drinking tea, that fella. Who's Faiz Hamid? Let me just see. Faizham. Yeah, this fellow was in Kabul drinking tea. He thought that he had done it all. Yeah, there's this picture of him drinking tea in Kabul. Maybe this was the guy. Faiz Hamid. Also was Jamil Saab, Altaf Hussain, and Hamza. Jamil Jamali. It did look like Altaf Hussain, didn't it? Yeah. I initially, the first movie, I thought it was based on Altaf Hussain, the leader of the Muhajir Qawmi movement or Muttahida Qawmi movement, whatever. Hamza, Rabindra Kaushik could be perhaps modeled on Ravindra Kaushik. Major Iqbal was one of the Pakistani terrorist people or whatever. Or army terrorists, same thing for Pakistan, right? Right. Fast Snail. Fast Snail says, I love the name. What is El Nino? I heard a super El Nino is coming later this year and could cause floods or famine. What can we do to mitigate and prepare for the worst? Scary. It's some kind of climatic phenomenon which causes droughts. That's what I know. How does it work? What's the mechanism? I have not studied it. But that happens once in a while. It's pretty rare, but it happens. And it causes in India a shortfall of the monsoon rains. And that's why it can cause drought and famine. At least not famine, but definitely drought in certain years. So that's the El Nino. How does it work? What's the mechanism? I am not sure. I have not studied it. So a super El Nino is coming this year. Well, that's probably cause of concern. Yeah, let's find out. Is this a El Nino year? Is 2026 a El Nino year? However, super El Nino 2026. Okay. Is it La Nina? Is it El Nino? There's two phenomena, El Nino and La Nina. Okay, there's a probability of more than 60% that the El Nino will develop between late spring and summer of 2026. Okay. Sounds like it's concerning. Maybe it could possibly mean that there could be less rain this year. I hope that's not the case, but yeah. Yeah. So, what's the best way to prepare for this and mitigate this? I mean, you can't have artificial rainfall at a subcontinent level scale. You can do it in places like the UAE at a local scale, but so how do you mitigate? So what you do is you create a system that kind of generates resilience in the country. You create a network of canals across the country. You create reservoirs and dams. You ensure that the groundwater stays high, it doesn't go all the way deep. But we are doing the opposite in India, right? So the right way to do it is to, historically in India, the whole subcontinent was full of ponds and lakes. Most of these have been dried out now. In every village, in every town, every city, you had lakes and ponds all across the place. Because of that, the water table used to be really high. But today we just keep drilling for water and digging water out of the earth. And all our ponds and lakes and everything have been destroyed. The British didn't care. They were happy to see our ponds and lakes destroyed. But after 1947, the illiterates who in some parts were ruling the country, they didn't understand the importance of lakes and ponds. So today we don't have lakes and ponds anywhere. Maybe Bangalore has some lakes or something. So that's how we prepare for it, by having lakes and ponds everywhere, all across the country. Otherwise, you have networks of canals and whatnot, I suppose. 24 Bharat says, ISR, okay, Israel is excuse for the US like Ukraine. Iran was always on US agenda, as was or is Venezuela, Cuba, Russia, China, Syria, Libya, Afghanistan, Iraq. Israel is nothing without US money. Well, you see, all the wars that Israel fought, they needed American help. Even today, for military support and defense and all, they do need American help. They do need American support on an ongoing basis. That's true. So you could say, and you may not be wrong, that Israel has to depend on American money. They are a very enterprising nation. They have entrepreneurs. They are very good in high technology and all that, etc. But yes, it's a nation that's to a very large extent dependent on the US for its safety, security, and a lot of other things. Clive Falcon says fresh water reserves would be the next oil in the future. Possibly. Water is precious. And that's why China holds Tibet. Because many of the great rivers in Asia, they originate in Tibet, right? Water is precious. I think what 1% or so of the planet's water is fresh water. Let's find out, shall we? What percentage of the Earth's water is fresh water? 2.5 to 3%. Well, as you can see, there's a big scarcity of that, and the population is growing, and industries need water. So yes, water is very important, super important. It's going to be very precious. Prateep Kumar Roy says, a communist-like revolution in India followed by a China-like system is the only hope for getting our old system strength and unity back. Your views? I would say, see, what India needs is reforms. There are two kinds of reforms. There's two ways of doing reforms. One way of doing reforms is slowly. But then if you do slowly, nothing ever changes, because the people who are entrenched in power will never allow real reforms to happen. The other way is to do very fast reforms, which typically is massive change. So you could call that revolutionary reforms, which can also be done systematically, or it can happen through a complete breakdown of law and order and everything, which is the actual revolution or something like that. Now, a communist revolution, communist-like, I can understand. But see, when you have a revolution in the country, there's turmoil, there's chaos, there's instability. It affects everybody, including the armed forces, which allows your neighbors to go and grab pieces of your territory. So it's bad for your territorial integrity. But long term, if it produces a better system, you'll get your territory back. But maybe your people will get killed in the way, right? So I don't know what's the best way forward. India needs revolutionary reforms, not these slow motion, useless, pointless, alleged reforms that we see. We need revolutionary reforms. We need transformative reforms. We're not seeing that at all. So India does need a complete shake-up, right? We do need that. But how do we do that without affecting our territorial integrity and allowing our wonderful neighbors the opportunity to bite away at our pieces of our territory? That's the question, right? Yeah. Neural Scout says, as an 18-year-old med student, I aim to leverage India's evolving healthcare system to build global value. Any X factor our ancestors had that could be applied to lead, not just survive AI in my 20s, the next decade? Look, AI is something completely new that none of our ancestors imagined, I suppose. I don't know. Maybe somebody will say something in the Vedas spoke about AI. I don't know. X factor our ancestors had that could be applied to lead, not just survive AI in my 20s. Well, if you are, I don't know about what our ancestors did, but you can lead in AI if you are an adopter and you use it to build stuff. Or maybe you develop your own AI models. You train your own models or whatever. So you have to be not a consumer, but a creator of something. But you are into medicine. You're a medical student. So you can use AI in medicine. You can use AI for diagnostic purposes. You can train AI systems. You can have your own, open source AI. You can train it to diagnose cases much better than any human being can, right? All you have to do is feed it historical data, feed it 700 CT scans or 7,000 CT scans of the brain or whatever the hell it is, right? And then correct it each time it goes wrong. Okay, no, it's not this, and so on. It'll learn. So there's all kinds of things you can do. And I promise you, AI it's an incredibly powerful tool to have, right? So you've got to learn how to use it right, how to use it in a way that most people don't know how to use it. How to use it like the 1% or 0.1% of the users, and then you'll get tremendous results. All right, sir, all the best. Ragveer Singh says Sukhoi 57 is much better than Rafale. You can check. All right, sir. Thank you very much for this insight. Thank you. Varun says, no juniors equal to no future experts in IT thoughts. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. If you don't see, the future of any industry is the freshers, the juniors, right? But when you have a situation in the domain of IT where AI does the job of junior coders, junior programmers, junior QA testers, then companies will stop ingesting youngsters, freshers. Then what happens? No future. I agree with you. Yes. Pratardana says R37 range is 400 kilometers. Astra 2 is 160 kilometers. Is in trials, but that doesn't mean that we should kill off the Astra. Induct the 160-kilometer Astra and keep developing it. In a few years, even the Astra will be a 400-kilometer range missile. But right now, the R37 is 400 kilometers. So right now, we can induct the R37. But long term, we have to be Atmanirbhar. As a stopgap measure, we can certainly purchase foreign equipment and foreign weapons. But long term, we have to be Atmanirbhar. Devious Samrajya says Islamic regimes function through proxies. Iranian regime proxy Hamas trained Lashkar-e-Taiba for the Pahalgam attack with the exact strategy like 7th October. Hamas is not an Iranian proxy. Hezbollah is an Iranian proxy. See, the West likes to use certain terms. Proxies for nations they don't like, and allies for themselves. Hezbollah is an Iranian ally. Ansar Allah, which is the Houthis, is an Iranian ally. Syria, under Mr. Assad, used to be an Iranian ally. They have some kind of relationship with Hamas, but it's not the close relationship you think it has. Hamas is not an Iranian proxy. Hamas and Iran are totally different ideologically and religiously. Hamas are Sunnis. Iran is Shia. Hamas, you understand, they'll trade Pakistani terrorists and all. Iran will never do that. Iran won't even have its proxies do that. So please understand, it's different. ABH says, after listening to you and getting motivated, I joined and worked in Indian nuclear program for a year in the Department of Atomic Energy, but resigned due to lack of nuclear training formally. But sure, our nuclear will grow a lot. Why am I not surprised? So, you saw the Department of Atomic Energy. How was the experience? Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. You resigned. The whole place would be run by bureaucrats. Right? It will be some. Yeah, I know how it is. Yes, I know. I've seen such places. Yeah, but so that's how everything is done in India at the government sector, in the government. Not hopefully we will grow and things and all. Yeah. Right. I'm sorry you had that experience. But anyway, any experience is good in the long run. You learn something from it. Okay. Rahul ji says, Pranam ji, follower living in Boston from Mysore. Boston, Massachusetts, not far from Plymouth, the Rock of Plymouth, where the Mayflower landed and docked, and the first pilgrims landed in the New World and met with Massasoit and Tisquantum or Squanto. Well, thank you so much for being a follower and for being a viewer. Thank you so much, Rahulji. Thank you. Pradeep Kumar Roy says, I saw a hypothetical post on X stating that if we could cut through the Himalayas at different places, cold Siberian winds will flow through India. Well, that's the first order consequence, that cold wind could, yeah, if you cut through the Himalayas. See, the Himalayas are the tallest mountain range in the world, and they prevent the freezing wind that you have in Tibet, the freezing air in Tibet, from crossing over southwards into India, into the subcontinent, right? But if you slice through the Himalayas and take out sections, that air will flow in. Yeah, so that's the first order effect. You will have cold air flowing into India. But what's the second order, third order effect? What are the downstream effects? There could be many such downstream effects that we have not thought of, right? We don't think about them all. It will change the climate in India. It may cause the extinction of certain animal species, plant species, tree species, and God knows what. Yeah. But anyway, it's totally hypothetical because nobody's going to cut through the Himalayas. Rohit says an Australian startup built a biological computer trained, where neurons learned to play Doom. Could such systems replace silicon based GPUs in the future? They could potentially. Potentially. Yeah. I've even, a long time ago, I read about the potential of using DNA based computers where the memory will be stored in DNA, synthetic DNA. Anyway, this thing you're talking about, neurons learned how to play Doom. Could such systems replace silicon based GPUs in the future? I don't know about that. Silicon based GPUs, I don't know. Graphical processing units. Possibly, I don't know. We'll have to see about the architecture and so many other details. Could be possible. Yeah, maybe it's possible. I'll have to think in detail and think in depth before I can actually give you a considered answer, but I'm saying maybe it's possible. Sergeant Skyland says, is our air defense system better than Israel's? Well, I suppose Israel has the good enough air defense system to defend against Pakistan level threats. We, until Operation Sindoor happened, until the end of March, when the Iran war had not started, India had the best battle-tested defense system in the world, air defense system. Now, Israel's defense system has failed against Iran because of sheer volume that Iran threw at them. But their missiles are still good. But our missiles are also excellent. So maybe qualitatively we are similar. But if we can have, let's say we are able to manufacture 20 times the number of interceptors Israel has, then ours is better, for sure. Even if qualitatively we are almost similar. But quantitatively, we will just knock them out of the water. So, yeah. 24 Bharat says, Bose's forward bloc was also nationalist and communist. Yeah, well, yeah. The forward bloc was kind of a communist leading party, right? Subhash Chandra Bose's party, the forward bloc. They were absolute nationalists. But that's all in the past, isn't it? Yeah. Rajat says, why no SIG GDP per capita improvement in the last 10 years? Okay, let's see. Has our GDP per capita grown? India GDP per capita growth chart. Okay. So it's grown. It's grown. From 1980 to 2020, it's grown. So imagine how low it was in 1980. So there's been an improvement, clearly. There's been an improvement. Devya Samraj says, there are deep intel reports by Fox that Munir has deep ties with IRGC, which could be a red flag for the Trump administration. What's the credibility of these reports? What's the evidence that this is true? I'm not saying it's not true. I'm saying, how do we know it's true? It's an American media outlet that's reporting something about Pakistan and Iran. The American media has a vested interest in spreading misinformation. So I don't know about that, really. Yeah. Until we see some actual evidence, how can we believe this? Okay, Mrs. Benedict Cumberbatch says Iran fired on 2 Indian carriers and closed the strait. Yeah, I discussed this for 3 hours ago. It was not Indian aircraft carriers, it was Indian ships. So let's quickly take a look at that. Where was this? Give me a second. So, if we see this, so this is from before this. What happened? Give me a second. Okay. Before the live stream started, this came out, right? The US says that Iran's IRGC has conducted at least 3 attacks on commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz today. The Strait of Hormuz is officially closed again. Then you have this news that came out according to two Channel 16 audio recordings captured today. Two Indian vessels were forced back west out of the Strait of Hormuz into the Persian Gulf by Iran's IRGC Navy, and firing was involved. One of the vessels is an Indian flagged VLCC super tanker carrying 2 million barrels of Iraqi oil. And more of that. And India's foreign ministry has summoned the Iranian ambassador over this incident. So yeah. So one wonders what happened and why this was done. And obviously, the government of India has summoned the Iranian ambassador to explain what happened. Why this? Why has this happened? Are we enemies? We're not enemies. We are friendly nations. Why? Why this? So yeah, let's see what was the root cause of that and all. Eventually, it will come out. Rajat says, why Earth not hit by asteroid belt big objects? It's hit from time to time, but it's not hit every week, right? Time to time means millions of years. Yeah. See, the Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. And we get a hit from a massive asteroid once every 60, 70 million years. And we have the evidence, the scar tissue on the Earth's surface to show for it. Okay. So in 2013 or something, you had the Chelyabinsk event. It was not an impact event. It was a bolide exploding in the atmosphere. Chelyabinsk over Siberia. You had this meteor that came in and exploded, right? It shattered windows all over the place. You had Chelyabinsk. In 1908, you had Tunguska in Siberia once again. You had the Sikhote-Alin meteorite falls in the 18th or 19th century or whatever. You've had these things. But the last time we were hit by a major impactor was approximately 66 million years ago. And the impact happened in Yucatan. Would you like to see where Yucatan is? I shall show you. Come, I shall show you where Yucatan is. So this impact was the object that impacted was roughly 10 kilometers in diameter. The impactor. Okay. Let's go to satellite images. So the impactor was about 10 kilometers in diameter, and it impacted the planet around here. Not Merida, but Chicxulub. Where do we find Chicxulub? It has to be somewhere here. Not Merida, but somewhere here. Chicxulub, where is it? Chichic. Chicxulub, Yucatan. Here it is. This is roughly the epicenter of the impact, Chicxulub. And today you see nothing here. You don't see any anomaly on the surface. But there is a hidden, buried impact crater, which is an annular crater, multiple concentric rings that extend out into the ocean. Okay. And so, yeah, the impact did happen 66 million years ago. And do you know what was the consequence of that impact? The consequence of that impact was that 66 million years ago, the non-avian dinosaurs went extinct. Yeah. The non-avian dinosaurs died out. The avian dinosaurs, on the other hand, they still exist. I saw some today. Avian dinosaurs. The non-avian dinosaurs died out. 24 Bharat says HSRA forward bloc was Marxist and revolutionary, communist and nationalist. Congress socialism was reformist, bourgeois, champagne socialism, and democratic and moderate and largely Western inspired Fabian socialism, champagne socialism, petit bourgeois socialism, democratic socialism, moderate socialism, reformist socialism. Yeah. So the forward bloc, HSRA, etc., they were the revolutionaries, the hardcore Marxists and all. At least they were true to their beliefs, right? Yeah. Yeah. And they were patriots. They were nationalists. They wanted to serve the nation and they thought that Marxism is the way forward. Well, at least they meant well. At least they weren't champagne socialists or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. See, even the Chinese even the Chinese communists, they were patriots in their own way. They were pretty brutal, etc. The aeroplaning and all that, but they were patriots. They were working for China. They just thought that certain Chinese people should not exist. Whatever. Okay. Aditya says, my last question was about India-Pakistan back channel talks, track 1.5 or 2 diplomacy. There are news reports covering this. What's the meaning and impact? I have not heard this news. I would be shocked if there is such a thing happening. Let me see. Let's see. Okay, you're talking about India and Pakistan. India-Pakistan back channel talks. Really? Let's see. India-Pakistan back channel talks. Do we have something? Oh, really? First Post says, and the news comes out yesterday, 4 India-Pakistan back channel meetings held since Operation Sindoor, says report. India-Pakistan back channel talks on despite freeze since Operation Sindoor. That is shocking. Let's see. Let's go to First Post. Says a report. Who has given you this report? Okay. This meeting is essentially, according to Hindustan Times. Where is that? Let me go to Hindustan Times. I don't know to see second-hand news. Hindustan Times. Where is it? Okay, this seems to be the report. The most recent engagement was a track 2 meeting in Doha, facilitated by a UK-based think tank. India and Pakistani strategic experts, parliamentarians. What is this? Please go away. And former diplomats. 2 of the engagements were track 1.5 meetings, serving retired officials, facilitated by London-based Institute for Strategic Studies, Qatari capital. Okay, somebody told these people on the condition of anonymity. People familiar with the matter. You're protecting your sources, are you? You're protecting your sources. London meeting. IISS and NESA. India saw in the past. Okay. Indian Pakistani experts, academia, Shah Praya. But is this official or is this just a bunch of retired people who are doing this? There are many retired people who want to still remain relevant and they go and attend such things. But was this officially sanctioned by the government of India? If it was actually officially sanctioned by the government of India, then I'll be extremely surprised and shocked actually. But if it was some bunch of people who want to stay relevant and they go around these champagne circuits and all, that doesn't concern me at all. Not interested. Those people, there are plenty of such retired diplomats and all. Many of them are fantastic. I mean, look at Dr. Kanwal Sibal. He still is kind of the voice of India on social media. I mean, the authoritative voice of India, isn't he? But there's a whole bunch of retired diplomatic personnel and army personnel who want to be in that circuit where you have these, do you call them conclaves and lit fests and all, and you want to still stay important. You have a new MacBook and you're trying to have your glasses here. And so those people don't matter. If it was officially sanctioned by the government of India, I'll be extremely surprised actually if that's the case. So I don't know what the meaning and impact is, because I don't know if it was officially sanctioned by the government or not. It depends. If it's sanctioned by the government of India, it means something is very strange. Okay, 24 Bharat says Congress party inspired by British Labour Party liberalism. Well, I haven't studied the history of the Indian Congress Party, so I don't really know about that. But yeah, it was liberalism. Was it? It was socialism, Fabian socialism, that I'm aware of. If liberalism was also a factor, I don't know about that. I know for a fact that Mr. Nehru, the great, magnificent Mr. Nehru, the greatest prime minister in the history of India, I know for a fact that he was a Fabian socialist, but I don't know about liberalism. Okay. Uh, McLevin69 says it was Shabazz Sharif at the end of Durandar. At the end of Durandar, what happens? He comes back to India and he doesn't meet his mom. Shabazz Sharif. No, it was Nawab Shafiq. There was a character called Nawab Shafiq who looked exactly like Nawaz Sharif. Not exactly, but very similar. Yeah, I don't remember Shabazz Sharif. Was he the guy who was partying with Israelis? Was it? Is that what you're referring to? It could be, perhaps. Could be. Okay. Divodas Putra says, overlooked fact, Iran consular service in US are handled by Pakistan. Well, that's fascinating. Are Iran's consular facilities, no, services handled by Pakistan in the US? Yes. Iran's consular services in the US are handled by the Inquest section of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, which operates under the diplomatic protection of the Embassy of Pakistan in Washington, D.C. Oh, well, 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 well. Oh, well, well, well. Oh, well. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Really interesting. Well, I wasn't aware of this. Thank you for bringing this to my notice. I'll have to look into that in a little detail. Thank you very much, Divodas Putra. I wasn't aware of this. Pradeep Kumar Roy says about Jagat Seth's alliance with the East India Company in supporting Mir Jafar to defeat Sirajudullah, and his end after 1807 Bank of India. Eastern Rothschild, if not for British occupation of India? Question mark. I have no idea. See, my interest in history is ancient India. Unfortunately, I have not spent time studying the past 1,000 years of Indian history in any great detail because it is tragic and depressing. So if you ask me about the time period of the British occupation of India and the Battle of Palashi and Anglo-Maratha wars and the whatever else from that period, so I don't really know much about that. I know there's this person called Jagat Seth, and looks like he had some kind of alliance with the East India Company. I don't know anything about his life, the details of it. I don't know, sadly. I don't know. Very sorry. 24 Bharat says, are most countries like Kenya, Indonesia, Malaysia, etc. Actual US vassals, or are they just not fully sovereign? How many countries are actual US vassals? See, there are many countries that are simply too small and too insignificant to be sovereign. If you are dependent on other countries for everything, without imports, if you can't survive, then you are not a sovereign country. Or if you are large country but you aren't powerful enough, but you are large enough to be important geographically, then you are a vassal of the US. They ensure that. Study the history of Indonesia. What happened in the 1950s and 60s? Sukarno, Suharto. How did the transition happen? What's the hidden horror story behind it? How did the transition happen from Sukarno to Suharto? Would you like to see that? How did the transition happen from Sukarno to Suharto? Between 1965-68, a failed coup, Suharto used to purge the Communist Party of Indonesia, and so on. And there's an entire horror story embedded in that, which I will not go into right now. They say that's how you take control of countries. So many countries are not exactly vassals, but if the US comes to them and says, do this or do that or whatever, then these countries can't refuse. If the US says, okay, you can't buy oil from here, or you can't buy pineapples from there, then those countries have to do what the Americans tell them. You can't buy bananas from this country. You can't buy oranges from there. You send us your coffee at 1/10 the price you sell to others. Whatever. These countries have to obey. So they aren't actually vassals, but if the Americans put pressure on them, they have to give in. Right? So they're not fully sovereign. But many countries are actual American vassals. Many countries. How many countries are actual US vassals? Well, just to give you an example, um, all the EU and NATO nations are American vassals. Canada is an American vassal. All the American nations, the Americas, North and South America, are American vassals, either overtly or implicitly. Australia is owned by the US. Japan, South Korea are owned by the US. So many of these. Pakistan is a US vassal, and so on. Operation Ninjutsu says Claude Mythos is great coding. How long for AI SWE? Claude Mythos, I've heard it's great. I've heard it's frighteningly good at cybersecurity and the opposite of that. But we haven't seen it. It's a mythical model, right? Mythos. I hear it's great. I hear it's way better than the standard other anthropic models and other models you have there. But I don't know. How long for AI SWE? What is SWE? Let me find out what it means. SWE. Artificial Intelligence SWE. What does it mean? Software engineering agents. SWE agent. What's the full form? SWE bench. SWE agent. Software engineering agents. So how long? Maybe it's here. Maybe it's here. We already have agentic AI, right? But it has to be babysat by humans to keep babysitting it. Eventually, you're going to have it. Maybe a year. Maybe it's already there with Mythos. Maybe it's already there with the models that exist behind closed doors. And for the rest of us, I don't know. Maybe a year or two, or maybe never. We'll see. Pradeep Kumar Roy says, are 1D and 2D even real? Everything is 3D, even straight lines. You can decompose 3D into 2D and 2D into 1D. So conceptually, it exists. A flat, plain sheet of paper, the surface is 2D. It's absolutely 2D, right? If you disregard the atomic level ups and downs, which are like the Himalayas, but at our level, conceptually, it's two-dimensional. And the edge of your sheet of paper, it's kind of like a one-dimensional surface. There is no ideal actual 1D or 2D. It's all conceptions and abstractions for us. But yes, the universe, if it's three-dimensional, it's constructed from a two-dimensional. It's a hypersurface of a two-dimensional surface, right? That sort of thing. Okay, Harshai says, little off topic. What are your thoughts on Spider-Man movies, and which is your favorite Spidey movie? The Spider-Man movies, they keep on repeating the same old story. I've seen the Spider-Man movies from the 2000s, right? The girl who was a vampire in Interview with the Vampire, she was the love interest of Peter Parker in the Spider-Man movie. Let me just find out, okay? Who was the child actress in Interview with the Vampire? Kirsten Dunst. Okay, so Kirsten Dunst, Spider-Man, right? So she played Spider-Man. And who was the actor? Tobey Maguire. So that Spider-Man movie, there were 2 or 3 of those. They were okay. They were good. Yeah. I've seen those. I've also seen one of the newer ones. Well, they're just recycling the character and all that. I don't know. They're just trying to keep flogging a dead horse until they can get something out of it. Yeah. So yeah, a favorite Spider-Man movie. I don't know. Maybe the first one with Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst, perhaps. Yeah. 24 Bharat says 1/2. Oh, 1 out of 2. BJP continues the reformist moderate tradition while being slightly more pro-civilization on social and cultural issues and nationalist on foreign policy. But economically and politically, we still follow the West colonial model, small state liberal democracy. We need radicalism, revolutionary vision. I am of the opinion that India needs revolutionary reforms, right? We do follow the same Western model. We are a very westernized or West copying society. We are a nation with a massive inferiority complex. All our, well, many of our people, many of our even high ranking people have inferiority complexes. It's just ingrained in us. We need we need radical reforms. We need revolutionary reforms. We need to have a vision, a vision of greatness, not a vision of some imagined mediocrity. We need a vision of greatness. Why be content with mediocrity or something okay? Why not greatness? But we don't have people with that vision, unfortunately. Yeah, so it's yeah, right now it's kind of disappointing. Yeah. Pradeep Kumar Roy says after Lenskart, Air India's No Bindi, No Sindoor goes viral. Really? Air India too? It's run by the Tatas, isn't it? Air India. Why is everything anti-Hindu in Hindu majority India? This boils my blood. Because India is the world's largest. Okay, maybe Pakistan and Bangladesh are number one, number two, but India is the third most Hindu-phobic apartheid nation in the world. Yeah. And where Hindus are second-class citizens. Pradeep Kumar Roy, good night. Good night to you as well. Thank you. Rahul Ji says, what's the reason Rajendra Chola did not intervene against Muhammad of Ghazni? Geography, or was he busy in Southeast Asia? Thoughts on Somnath original lingam now? Maybe Rajendra Chola, I don't really know. I've not studied what campaigns was Rajendra Chola on during the time of the battles between Prithviraj Chauhan and Muhammad of Ghazni. And see, India is a vast, vast place, subcontinent, right? Today we can hop into an aircraft and go to Chennai or wherever in 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. Those days it took weeks, months. You did not know what was happening. So let's not. So maybe that's the reason why. Maybe that's the reason why. There was no Chola involvement in the matter. Maybe at that time, if you were in the northwest of India and somebody else was in the southeast of India, it was like being one person being in Australia and the other one being in Sweden. Maybe the distance was so large, perhaps. I don't know. And maybe Rajendra Chola didn't know about what was happening. Maybe he was busy with something else. He had a whole empire to manage, right? He had an entire empire to manage. Probably the tyranny of geography. Thoughts on Somnath original lingam? It's broken, right? It was destroyed. And it's resurfaced now. I think Shri Shri Ravi Kashankarji has the pieces of it. Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen the pieces. Magnetic properties, yes. The original lingam floated in the air because of magnetic effects. Sandeepan Bhattacharjee says, despite having decent relations with India, Iran has time to time shouted out for Kashmir but never say anything about Uyghurs of China. Why so? Because China has a far more effective foreign policy than India. That's the only answer. Don't blame Iran for this. The Iranians have never said anything about the alleged persecution of Uyghurs in China, right? Why? Because China has a far more effective foreign policy than India. It's as simple as that. Don't blame the Iranians. Okay, 24 Bharat says most Western and Indian woke, liberal, leftist, globalist, Marxist traditions and organizations, especially ones, are heavily Trotskyist, not nationalist. Trotskyist, not nationalist. They definitely are not nationalist. Well, I don't know exactly what Trotsky's ideology was. Trotsky was taken out on the orders of Stalin, if I'm not mistaken. But what was the deal with Trotsky? I haven't studied this aspect of Bolshevik history. Trotsky and his deal, right? I don't know. Maybe it's something I need to look into. All right. So these woke, liberal, leftist, globalist, Marxist traditions and organizations today, Western as well as Indians, are heavily Trotskyist, not nationalist. I know they're not nationalist, but Trotskyist. That's interesting. Okay. Pratik Kumar Roy says a difference between American presidential system and Indian parliamentary democracy. Which one is better and why? See, Indian parliamentary democracy, the Westminster system, it originated on a small island in the Atlantic Ocean. It's called today Britain. And that system evolved over several centuries. In that particular context in milieu. So it is suitable for that country. It's not suitable for a subcontinent sized nation like India. It's not suitable at all. Right? Because you have the prospect of coalition governments and hung parliaments. Who needs that? When you have an election, you need to have a clear decision and clear political stability for 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is, which is why the American system is far better. It's way more suitable for a large nation. The Westminster system that came from Britain is the worst possible system you can have for India. So the American system is much better. Mr. Asia Yesh says, reminder for raising the standards video. Thank you in advance. Well, that will have to be a series of videos. It can't be one. But thank you for the reminder, sir. Thank you so much. Hope you're doing great. 24 Bharat says 2014 to 2026, since Modi, India's GDP went from 2 trillion to 4 trillion. China's GDP went from 10 trillion to 20 trillion. We are growing at 6%, China at 5%. But when you are at 20 trillion, 5% makes a huge difference compared to growing at 6% when you are at 4 trillion. So China is a juggernaut and you got to hand it to them. They've done a great job. Yeah. They've done a great job. They deserve the success they've got. They've worked really hard for it. Yeah, so that is true. We have doubled our GDP. China has doubled their GDP, but they have reached 20 trillion. We are at 4. We are 20 years behind China, kind of, roughly. Right, okay. I think that's the last question for the day. I shall now end this live stream. Thank you so much, everybody. As always, thank you so much. Keep learning, keep asking questions, keep raising your standards. And I shall see you very soon in the next live stream. Until then, take care. Have a good day. Have a good night. See you soon. Bye-bye.